Next stage, a man looking for trouble. What can you see beyond the darkness?
When you look beyond the darkness, tell me, what do you see? It's your boy T-I-N-Y to the P. Yeah, he's looking for trouble here on twitch.tv with Crash or Jade or Spyro or Leon Kennedy. Is there a new game to start? Is he doing some art? Maybe knowledge of an 80s children's show to impart? Cause he's centiferous, vigorous, rigorous. He's damn vociferous. An arting or Mario Karting, he's straight carnivorous. Tiny Peter. Tiny Peter.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
With a great rate of save states debating his fate, Peter's greeted by emotes of cheaters when people donate. Give him a or a and we'll build up the hype, and I'll struggle to read half the words that you type. So are you ready to go? Come on, what will it be? Are we gaming or painting or watching dated kids TV? Grab a bite, crack a sprite, dim the lights, sit tight, cause the stream's about to start and the mics sound right, boy. Tiny Peter. Tiny Peter.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Boy.
Stop.
Twerk! Hold on, everyone! Oh!
Right.
I added more poo to the poo.
So you start.
It's like Play-Doh.
Hey Spyro, all dragons know there's magic in a fairy's kiss. See what it can do to your power of flame.
Hello everyone and welcome to a live stream. Do join me for that next week. This time next week I'll be doing another attempt. I mean, in a way it's not the same attempt of the Spyro 1 Flameless run. I'll tell you why for two reasons. Firstly, I'm much better now at doing the things I need to be able to do to glitch my way through to the end. But secondly, first time I did the Flameless run, it was in Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which was rebuilt from the ground up and operates in a very different way. There are a lot of things that I couldn't do in that version of the game that I can do in the PS1 version, and vice versa. So even if you did catch the original Flameless run, do stop by for that. We'll be raising money for Cancer Research UK, so it's an excellent cause. I know that if you are a fan of the work that Ben and I do outside of TripleJump, we may have already had our hands out to you for charity money, but hey, it's a special time of year, particularly I think for raising money for charity, and if you can spare any more, that would be great. Ben will be doing a charity stream as well, also for the same campaign for the Cancer Research UK. So join me this time next week where I will play through Spyro 1 without breathing fire. I will collect all 80 dragons. I will visit every single level. I will get some treasure from every single level. I will get all 12 dragon eggs. That involves getting through doors and up ledges that you can't normally get up or through, depending on which verb is relevant, without breathing fire. However, I am a sick MLG Pro Gamer Spyro bossaroo, and I'm going to show you some amazing things that you can do too if you play Spyro the Dragon on PS1. So we will get to the end of that probably, I think I can do it without commentating in about 3 hours, and probably with commentary and stopping and showing you how certain things work. Might be a bit more than that, but it'll be a bumper stream next week from 5 p.m. GMT. I just wanted to plug that heavily before we go any further. I'm seeing things come through in the chat, but I'm not sure my alert box is working, which is a bit concerning. Didn't this happen last week? And then it just started working. I can't remember. Hang on, let me just It shouldn't be any different to normal, but if I just make a new URL for it, dump it in, it might work. Oh, that may have just changed when I did that, which is a good thing. Let me try this now. Twitch bits.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
This is a test bit alert.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know you heard that twice. That's because I had the browser open. Okay, if I go through, I should be able to resend all the alerts that were missed there for some reason. Not quite sure how that happened, but whatever. Right, so here we go. We started with this. That's a PWIP from Plushy Labs Jennikin. Thank you very much for resubscribing for 40 months now, and that's via Prime. Wonderful. The system works. Thanks to Jeff Bezos, we get some extra subscriptions. Then we had Timmy Whiff gifting a sub to Army of Z, or Army of Zaya, perhaps. And that is Timmy Whiff's 47th gift sub to the channel so far. Thank you very much. Very, very generous of you indeed. I'm fiddling around with my my webcam as well a little bit here because there we go. Maybe. I know it's a bit girl. Look how orange you look, but be better than looking purple, right? Is it? Would you rather look purple or orange? Let me know in the chat down below. Sure, we'll go orange. At least it looks like I'm roasting on an open fire. Brilliant. We then also had Jeff the Molly Goose.
Yeah.
With 100 bits.
You madman, you.
I'm a madman. That's true. I will be doing a mad thing next week, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much for the bits there, Molly. Marco Bar cheered with 50 bits, which doesn't generate a VWIP, but thank you very much indeed. I almost tweeted you yesterday to ask when the Christmas watch-along was going to be. Annoyingly, I have to go out in like 50 minutes. What are you watching? Well, I think I've ever done that orange, haven't I? I think it's changing with the white balance. It's struggling against what I'm doing to it. Hey, there we go. That I don't know. Is that all right? That's fine. We're watching today. Fanny Cradock cooks for Christmas, and we're gonna have a wonderful time. Believe me, I've watched all of this. I've watched it before on several occasions, previous years in my own time. It's part of my annual Christmas viewing. But this year I have already watched it a couple of days ago just to refamiliarize myself, and there's some real gold TV moments in here. So it is worth watching, especially for those of you who might be understandably feeling a bit cynical about this. Like, in the past we've watched sort of wonky children's TV, Box of Delights, Chronicles of Narnia, Children of Green Noah, Green No, I can't remember how it's pronounced. And this is not kids TV. This is a woman in 1974, I think, cooking Christmas dinner. But believe me, she gives us a lot to enjoy. So bear with. I would like to think that you'll have a good time today. Steven Skodes gifted 100 bits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Yes.
It's a Monday stream with your boy Master Jedi Tiny Peter Austin. Hello TP. How are you? How was your weekend? Lovely to catch your stream today. Cheers for all the fun streams you did this year. Hope you are having a wonderful day.
Thank you, Stephen, for the bits and for the kind words. I had a lovely weekend, thank you. I'm finally, can you tell that my voice is actually a bit better now? I can speak without sort of fearing that I'm going to erupt into a coughing fit all of a sudden, so that's good. That's a view it from the El Dude brothers, who are subscribed now for 62 months on Prime. That's insane. 62 months. I can't believe the length of time some of these people's streaks have got to. Thank you, Eldu Brothers, for being with us for all that time. And of course, I've pressed it. Not sure when it's going to come through, but Stephen did gift a sub to Mick. There it is. Oh no, that's... Let me try Stephen's again. For some reason, Stephen's gift sub is not coming through. Don't know why, but I'll give you a salute anyway, Stephen. I see you. It's gone to Mick L, and that is your 1,328 gift sub to the channel. Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Don't know why I can't get it to redo that alert specifically. It's doing all the bits and stuff fine, but that's all right. Thank you, Mysterious Earwig, for chatting. It's a great first message. Welcome to the Walrus Clan chat. Matty Boosh also subscribed via Prime, which is us. Oh, that's the Eldu Brothers. Which is us all caught up. Apart from he is the Cuz, who also just subscribed via Prime. Can I get Matty Boosh to come through now? There we go. Done it. So he is the Cuz. Thank you very much for subscribing for 4 months via Prime, and to Matty Boosh, 9 months via Prime. Brilliant stuff. Right. Well, shall we? I mean, yeah, Boring Loner, I see you in the chat, Boring Loner. I also, in fact, before I forget, I also saw Cooley Wooly in the chat, who suggested that this stream should be called Your Fanny is Beautiful. And I don't know why I didn't call it that to begin with, but I have now changed it so that it is called that. So Your Fanny is Beautiful, everyone, and don't question it. But yeah, Boring Loner, I'm with you. I want to be a grown-up and not make Fanny comments, but so many are presenting themselves. I am old enough to not spend the next hour and 40 minutes making back-to-back Fanny innuendos. I'm old enough to do it. I'm not mature enough to do it. It will be happening. Protect your children. Hide your kids if they're watching. Or if you don't care about me saying Fanny over and over again, don't hide them. It's fine. In your endo. Yes, indeed. Back-to-back Fanny. Fanny is objectively a hilarious word, says Plushy Loves Jenny. It is. And the strangest thing of all is that in the UK, a fanny is on the front, and in America, a fanny is on the back. So there you go. It's different kinds of bottom, as you might say in juvenile language to a small child. That's the spirit, Peter, indeed. So, yes, the duality of Fanny, indeed. Right, this stream will go hard on mute for me today. Yes, will we get banned from Twitch? I don't know, who's to say? I also saw, I think it was Lobrotovich, I think it was one of the mods anyway, say that you were sold immediately when you saw her face in the thumbnail. She's, for those who have no context whatsoever, we'll get to it as we go, but Fanny Cradock is a very severe lady, and she's got the voice to match, and she's got sometimes the face to match, and the way she speaks to us as we watch, and also the people in the studio who are helping her. She's a scary lady, but hey, why don't we head on over to I'm a Christmas Pudding. Look at me. We've got some sprouts down here. I worked very hard on this, can you tell? They're in the foreground as well, so they're out of focus. What do you think? So we're here, and I think we're ready. Are we ready for Fanny? Chip Thompson's Thumbs has gifted a tier 1 sub to Fanny Cradock XX, taking you up to 49 gift subs in the channel. Thank you very much, Chip Thompson's Thumbs, for gifting a sub to Fanny. Now, we are, of course, talking about the late Fanny Cradock here. So I will avoid speaking too ill of the dead. I kind of like her. Despite some of the things I've heard about her and the way that she does kind of present herself, there's something about her I think is quite, I don't know if endearing is the right word, but anyway, I'm probably doing a lot of stuff. I'm making a lot of comments now that I should be making once you know what we're actually dealing with here. So it might be as good a time as any to hit the play button. I should also say, because I like to be clear when I'm rewatching old vintage telly with exactly how accurate to the original this is. The one thing I have changed here, the one and only thing I have changed, is the version of the Mike Oldfield Christmas song in Dolce Jubilo, is it called? that plays as the opening titles. It's a quite famous piece of popular music, and would definitely cause us issues on the VODs channel if playing a BBC show doesn't already cause issues. Definitely playing some Mike Oldfield music will be a problem. So I've simply swapped it out for another version. I think that's important to state because of media preservation and things like that. This is not a wholly original version. I have changed the music, and that's it. Right, there we go. Shall I press play? Yes. Welcome to episode 1 of 5, 15 minutes long each, don't worry, we won't be here all day, of Fanny Cradock Cooks for Christmas. I don't want it to be too loud, because I want you to be able to hear my excellent commentary. So let me know if you need it a bit louder. But here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Fanny Cradock. She is our Christmas bird.
Hello, and welcome to my little series on Christmas know-how. When you see this tree in the last of these 5 programs, it'll be finished. It's only just started.
Hasn't she got an excellent voice?
I realised that for over 20 years, I've been doing Christmas cookery on television,
the gravel,
stage, and in national newspapers.
The iconic
I
eyebrows.
thought the one constructive thing that I
She's already doing a weird thing to a turkey.
A series of items
already
that I made for Christmas and found out over the years the absolutely easiest.
Yeah, cookery on stage. She used to do a lot of on-stage
and
cooking.
This is what I'm going to try and share with you in these 5 programs.
Over 20
starting with
years.
Christmas birds. And of course,
You can tell she
we
smokes
start with
30
the
a
most
day.
important of all,
Absolutely.
the turkey, which is after all the British national bird.
Oh, it's a bit hairy, isn't it? It's still got a few hairs
Now,
on
there's
it.
cure in
Let's
these
go
5
back.
programs, starting with Christmas birds. And of course, we start with the most important of all, the turkey, which is our...
Look at that. Can you see my cursor? No, I don't think you can. But just around the front there, by the corner of the baking tin, just a few little wisps. Delicious. She's using that turkey like a fidget toy. Well, she's about to tell you what she's doing because she wants to be very clear that she's not just fidgeting nervously. This starts so at 11. It's like she goes. One of the weirdest things she does in the 5 episodes is this. So here we go. Thank you very much, Ren Jamin, or Ren Yaman, perhaps, for subscribing via Prime for 6 months now. Big up, Tiny P. Well, thank you very much. Big up to you too.
After all, the British national bird.
Right, again, I'll try not to keep jumping around, but let's hear what she says here.
We start with the most important of all, the turkey, which is after all the British national bird.
I've Googled that. I can find no evidence whatsoever that the turkey is the British national bird. Flagrant fake news there from Fanny Cradock in 1974. So, hey, it's 50 years since that piece of information went out on the BBC. Yeah, false Fanny facts.
Now, this curious pinching movement that I'm doing here isn't just silly, and it isn't to hide the fact that I'm scared stiff when I meet you all at the beginning of a program, because I am. But
it is
to
silly,
loosen the
Fanny.
skin, so that afterwards I can put my hand underneath.
Why?
And run it right through the skin.
Just for fun. This isn't for the cooking. It's what a pause. What a pause. What a freeze frame. That turkey's twice the size. She's already got her hand under the skin, not even in it, where, because some people do have to shove their hand up a turkey once a year to stuff it. Her hand is under the skin.
So that it holds right away from the breast of the upper part of the bird.
That's how you get the butter in to baste it.
Turkey,
Some of you know.
Traditional as it is a very dry bird. So if you get leaf-thin slices of ham or gammon, this is gammon, of course, because my purse won't run to raw ham these days.
That is the first of I won't keep pausing it. There's a lot to say at the beginning, and we'll get into a rhythm shortly. But that is the first reference to many throughout this series to the economical problems that were facing, let's face it, British housewives and British households in the 1970s, particularly. This was, I think it was 1974, and she. It was a through line that ran right across her career. Actually, was kind of coming up with cheap, nutritious ways of cooking and doing interesting recipes. She's really into her French cuisine. She loves the French. But particularly in the mid 70s, things were not good. And no, not British house husbands, Adi Pramana. This is 1974, and women do the cooking in her mind.
Fun fact, I'm from Norfolk and I'll never forget on my first driving lesson we drove past the Bernard Matthews factory and my god, the smell.
Oh god, I don't want to think what it might smell like outside the Bernard Matthews factory, Trillian Jones, but thank you for the bits. So there we go. Don't worry, we won't pause count you, unlike Adam. Does Adam get pause counted? It's so... There's always so much to say, because I don't want to like talk over the top of it, because then she's saying the next unhinged thing and she's shoving her hand somewhere else up a bird. So, you know, I have to pause every so often. But yeah, I think there'll be more pauses to begin with, and then once we've established who Fanny is, what Britain was like at this period of history, we'll be able to let things slide a little bit more, much like her hand up that turkey.
I don't know whose purse runs to anything. And you get the raw ham.
Whose purse runs to anything? I love the way she speaks.
Gammon. This is gammon, of course, because my purse won't run to raw ham these days. I don't know whose purse runs to anything. And you get the raw ham or the raw gammon in these paper-thin slices, cut the rind off, and then...
Cut the rind off?
Run it under the skin and over the upper part of the bird like this. You begin the process of lubricating the dry bird.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, that does look like it will be delicious when it's done.
Right up and right over.
But it's not very glamorous. And look what she's wearing. She's dressed right up for this. She looks fabulous.
Something else, which is mushrooms, and I beg of you.
She was apparently a right cow. Yeah, we'll get to Fanny Cradock's life outside, well, not even outside her career, but she was a bit of a cow in her career apparently. But so I am aware of who I'm dealing with here when I say all these complimentary things about how much I love watching her. Yeah, it is all with the caveat of the fact that she was apparently a bit horrible. But hey.
And it honestly is the most exciting and delicious way, and now I always do my Christmas turkey.
It's exciting.
When you do yours, please not only remove the stalks, but remember to leave the skin on your mushrooms and put them in like this.
She's like a school teacher. There's a lot of that, looking down the lens saying, and don't do it this way.
Like this. Of course, they go down a bit when it starts cooking. In fact,
should hope so.
Completely by the end of the cooking time. As well they might do. Because it doesn't do much for the bird's figure, let's face it.
Certainly not.
But on the other hand, it wouldn't do very much for ours, would it?
No.
There we go.
Can you hear her all right, by the way?
Through. And now, when the bird starts to cook, the juices from the unsoaked ham or gammon, now I stress that although it's all written down in the Christmas Know-How book.
Didn't expect to watch Fanny lubricating on Twitch today. Indeed, D Lodge, good one. You can hear her loud and clear. Okay, good. I can hear her better than I'd like. Sound is loud enough. You're all saying the same thing. There was an accompanying book or booklet that came out with this. It's called something like Fanny. It wasn't called Fanny Cradock Cooks for Christmas. It was called Fanny Cradock's Christmas Cookery. And you can see images of the front cover on the internet and at the end of some of these episodes. But the few copies that seem to still exist that are listed as being in acceptable condition are listed for like £200 because there are so few of them left. And I think it has gained a bit of a cult status partly because of this program. So I would love to even just have a PDF copy of it and just read it because it's such a time capsule. We'll hear so many interesting turns of phrase and references to things and comments on the economy and the state of the world. It's so 1970s, you know.
Which you'll hear about at the end of the program. The unsoaked gammon provides the salt a far better way than with actual salt. In fact, in really super French kitchens, chefs have a thing they call the jambon de Bayonne, a Bayonne ham, hanging out, and they take little slivers off it and toss it into their sauces and their soups for the salty seasoning, which is far, far better.
She loves
As I said, it
French
doesn't do much
chefs.
for the bird's figure. But there it is.
Look at that.
All those inside, and all those juices run down. and they lubricate it and offset the dryness. And
I could
gracious
listen to
me,
her
she's
all
done
day.
all that to the bird,
She's
but she hasn't
great.
put the stuffing in. Well, I'm rather proud of this. I think some of you have seen it before. But I decided the time had come to invent a way of getting the stuffing into a bird without untrussing it and then being faced with having to truss it all over again, especially when you don't know how to do the trussing job. So now I fill it.
Language, Fanny. If you don't know how to do the trussing job, I'm not trussing interested, to be honest. I'm not trussing doing that. You can truss right off.
Trussing it and then being faced with having to truss it all over again, especially when you don't know how to do the trussing job. So now I fill it into a nylon icing bag with no pipe affixed.
Good grief.
And then all I've got to do
Oh, she split it.
just squeeze until the bird's full. And that is full.
Crikey.
Before I leave that end, I'm going to take a piece of foil. I'm going to put it over the parson's nose, because it does tend to blacken during the cooking. And that finishes that end. And then I take another bag of stuffing. You see, a nylon bag like this.
Now down the neck hole now.
Up there.
Oh, under the skin.
Stuffing in that end. And that's all there is to it. Then you lift it onto a perfectly dry baking tin like this. Crash.
Crash.
And then a little bit of butter. Or if you can't run to butter, then a little bit of dripping.
If you can't run to butter, Jesus Christ. Britain was on its knees in 1974. It's amazing anyone got any trussing food at all. If you can't run to butter. I mean, to be fair, I don't buy actual butter even now. So, but there is another cosy lives going on, so maybe that's why. But, crikey.
Dripping in the pan. Oh, dear me now. Because you see, if you do this, then you can pour good bone stock.
It's a lot of butter, isn't it?
All round in the meat baking tin, and then you make the beginnings of a most beautiful sauce, gravy, jus, whatever you like to call it.
We call it gravy. I don't say, Mum, can you pass the jus, please? Not round my Christmas dinner table.
Because all the other juices run into that as well, and like that it gets baked at gas mark 4. There you are, my darling. Here's my Sarah again to help me.
Right, that's the first appearance of Sarah, and we're all going to be very much rooting for Sarah by the end of today's watch party, because Sarah's really up against it with Fanny today. We'll see why as we go.
Gas mark 4, at least one shelf below centre. And you give it half an hour for the first pound and 20 minutes for every pound thereafter.
Pounds. It's all metric.
Now
It's all
there,
imperial, sorry.
Instead is a Christmas goose. The kind of thing, you know, that the maiden aunt that you always have because she's lonely on Christmas Day or some other elderly lonely person.
Maiden aunt. No one says maiden aunt anymore. I'm surprised she didn't call her a spinster.
Says, oh, I can't eat goose because, you see, it does repeat so. Well, this way...
It does repeat so.
It never repeats on anybody because you get rid of all this extra fatty substances, and I'll tell you exactly how it happens. You prod it all over. You think of somebody you've never really liked. I'll let that go for the moment and then pick it up again in a minute. Prod it all over. Think of somebody you've never really liked, but you're too well-bred to say what you think of them, so you take it out on the goose until it's stabbed all over.
Crikey. Who would you think of when you were stabbing the goose? Who are you too well-bred to say anything about? I'm the maiden aunt of my family, says Jeff the Molly Goose. A spinster, not married at 25. Indeed. Spinster needs to be brought back. My grandma says spinster. She doesn't mean... Like, my grandma says so many things. She was born in the 1940s, and she comes out with turns of phrases that they're not even meant offensively, because spinster, it's not a nice term, is it? Like, it doesn't feel like a nice term. All she means literally is she might be talking about like one of her friends, someone who she loves very dearly, but that friend might happen to be 70, 80 years old, and they never married for one reason or another, and she'll like drop it in when it's not relevant. She'll say like, oh yeah, because you know Jean, don't you? Because I think you met her last year. Lives up at the farm at the top, spinster. Well, anyway, her dog is not very well. I'm like, it's a spinster? What? Excuse me? There's quite a lot of things that Fanny says and does that Reminds me a little bit of my grandmother. My gran said old maid, says wee carrot XO. Yeah, okay. I'm too well bred to say spinster, I think.
Put the rack back, and then, beastly job this.
Beastly?
You dip your hands into thin honey.
Good grief.
You coat the goose all over. Now, what happens during the cooking time is that the surplus fat...
Sorry, she's had her hand up a chicken, and now she's dipping it in the honey. I mean, honey, to be fair, is...
doing its own basting, and you end up with a gorgeously crisp skin, which is part of the eating pleasure.
Honey is, fairly good at it's antimicrobial, but I suspect she'll be touching all sorts of things before the end of this episode that, she's been up a turkey. Yeah, she's double dipped, indeed.
But the fat runs down into the baking tin below. Only one word of warning here, and that is, I've put this, of course, in the booklet, like everything else, and all the different stuffings that you use for all the different birds. But I must stress that at half-time, and all your cooking times there again, I use gas mark 5 for this bird, but one shelf below centre, in the booklet. You must empty the tin of its fat a bit because it gets overfull and can be dangerous.
Jesus. All right. Yeah, try it yourself. But if you don't empty it halfway through, you might... I'm not quite sure what the implication is there. Set your house on fire or tip a tray full of scalding hot fat all over you if you take it out the oven and fall. Wow. Instructions unclear. Burn down my spinster aunt's house. Indeed. She is, okay, miss. You're right, Oz Modial Viz. She's very, very school mistress. School spinster.
End of the cooking time. Now let's get that one out of the way and merely show you a duck placed on an ordinary grill rack.
A duck.
Such as we all have, do you see? And you do a duck in precisely
Such as
the
we
same
all
way as a
have.
goose, only you don't cook it for so long. But it's the same old thing. Stab it all over with the fork, rub it with the thin honey, and leave the pan absolutely dry for the fat of the duck to accumulate the same as the goose.
Okay.
But supposing you don't want either, well then, there's the question of the chicken. The person who's, well, there's only 2 people for Christmas, or somebody who lives alone.
Someone who lives alone, like a
They
spinster.
use this same skin
Oh, what did I just press?
like this, till
Okay,
you can
that's
run your
fine.
hand underneath it. And then you just use the mushrooms.
I did duck for myself last Christmas, says the far wall. Well, what you want to do is stab it with forks and put it in a dry baking tray. Empty it halfway through because it gets dangerous. Merry Christmas.
Because they make the most gorgeous flavour.
Gorgeous!
You don't need to lubricate with the gammon as well, because this is not a dry bird.
You don't
So
need to
just push
lubricate
a
with
few
gammon,
mushrooms
a
over the
chicken.
Skin, and that's all ready to eat and enjoy. And you do exactly the same thing with a capon. And here is a capon.
A capon?
While I'm talking to you about this.
A capon, I'm
Mushrooms,
surprised she's separating the two, because my understanding is a capon is just a type of chicken, is it not? But anyway, that's what you do with a capon.
A little bit of butter over the chicken. Little bit of butter over the capon. We'll pretend that the mushrooms...
Rubbing her
are
poultry fingers right through the butter. Lovely.
And both these, the same trick, only a little butter. And then the bone stock that you've made separately, poured into the pan so that it draws in all the juices of the roasting bird and makes your sauce for you without any trouble.
I'm not going to lie, I
Now-
bet it's really nice.
Let's draw breath. Let me wipe my hands clean, because I want to tackle the thing that men infuriate me over most.
Men? Or women. Fanny Cradock, I mean, it's not just her. It's 1974, and this running right through this series is the idea that only women will be watching this. Only housewives, a term that she uses, housewives will be doing all this Christmas cooking. The men will perhaps do the carving. In fact, I think that's what she's about to talk about. They'll carve the food and they will eat the food, and that's it. That's what the men are here for. They go and work down the pit all day, and then they come home, and you better have you better have trussing well made a delicious goose that you've had your hand halfway up for me. All right, please. Housewives or spinsters, indeed. Yeah. Wiping her hands clean, that's good. Wiping will do. Yeah. It's one of those antibacterial towels they had in 1974. They should bring those back.
And I want to share with you how French women cope with this thing without any interference from the male. I'm no women's lib. Don't think for a moment. I'm not such a clot.
That, unfortunately, we have peaked there. That is the best thing she says for the whole full 5 episodes. Listen carefully.
Women cope with this thing without any interference from the male. I'm no women's lib. Don't think for a moment. I'm not such a clot.
Here's how the woman. This is shocking, a shocking step. Here's how the woman can carve the chicken or turkey instead of the man. I mean, that's very progressive. Without any interference from her husband. Now, she's no women's lib. She's not such a clot as to be women's lib. Now, for context, the women's liberation movement. I'm going to read it from Wikipedia, so it must be true. The women's liberation movement was a political alignment of women and feminist intellectualism. It emerged in the late 60s and continued till the 1980s, primarily in the industrialized nations of the Western world, which resulted in great change, political, intellectual, and cultural throughout the world. It was essentially a feminist movement, and they were trying to make steps to help women move from being what were essentially second-class citizens to being treated the same as men. Of course, in the eyes of Fanny, if that's what... I mean, she was born in 1909, I think, so... but, you know, you're a clot if you're women's lib.
To share with you how French women cope with this thing without any interference from the male. I'm no women's lib. Don't think for a moment. I'm not such a clot. But there are times when men do make fools of themselves. Haven't you seen them getting scarlet in the face and struggling with the Christmas bird when they do the carving, using this ridiculous thing with a fork guard and a special carving knife? All you need is a pliable French knife like this and an ordinary table fork, and it's perfectly safe.
Okay.
And I'm going to do this very slowly so that you can see exactly.
Fanny describing her
Turn
ick.
this bird this side first of all and show you. You make a stroke where the skin joins the leg and thigh.
Look how sharp that knife is.
You reverse the knife so that if it slips, it can't do you any harm. You put the fork inside and you just pull until you can see the bone. And instead of that purple-faced struggling that you get from Pa, you merely cut through, turn it over, and there's the thigh. Let's put them on this little dish.
Look at this 1970s presentation dish. She's piped some, I think, mashed potato, which I can't tell if it's the camera or if it's 70s. I think she's dyed it a bit green, which was a very 70s thing to do. Vegetable dyes.
Potato. The leg. Now I'll do that again on the other side, the reverse way. No, I'll do it that way, shan't I? Like that. Cut through. Reverse the knife. Push until you can see the bone. There
It looks a bit... I know, obviously, around the wing and the thigh, you get the sort of, what do you call it, the brown meat. But it looks a bit sort of pinkish, doesn't it? A little bit dark. I'm not quite sure if that's perfectly cooked. That is not cooked, says Techueo, as an independent comment from mine. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think it's quite ready, that.
I believe you can see it if I put my knife up against it, and then you cut through, turn it over. You don't get flushed, you don't get hot, you don't have to mop yourself with a streaming forehead.
The skin should be more orange, shouldn't it?
Put the leg there, and let's put the thigh there. Now we'll come to the wings. We'll stay on this side. One cut.
The uranium in the plate will cook it all the way.
So, until you can see it,
it's trussing raw.
down, and there's a very handsome wing.
I do like a wing. I love a wing on a chicken or a turkey.
One cut, and down.
So you can
Pull it
see the
aside.
bone. There she goes.
It's as easy as shelling peas, isn't it?
It is.
And nobody wants those nasty little paper-thin slices they give you in restaurants. But first of all, let's talk about this.
What do you mean?
Parson's nose off. If you're keen on it like I am, you hide it. Then you...
What do you mean no one wants... So she, as it turns out, when she's done serving, she is thinking of giving these whole lumps to people on plates. She's not going to slice it up. She thinks nobody in their right mind wants slices of chicken or turkey. Nobody.
Nasty little paper...
Parson's nose off. Look at that. Is that a little base of peas in there?
Thin slices they give you in restaurants.
Look at that presentation. This, honestly, there's a lot that I can understand about, even though certain things age badly over time, fashions, trends, styles, aesthetics is a commonly used word nowadays. I can see, even though some things have aged badly now, I can understand how they were once appealing. So you look at the 70s, you look at the 80s and the 90s, in a way, very garish, very colourful, strange shapes and things, all sorts of strange things happening over there. But I can totally understand why they were considered cool at the time. 60s as well, very cool. I mean, actually still cool today in some ways. The 70s, I love watching this stuff, but when was that ever appealing? I don't understand it. We had an avocado bath suite in my house when I was growing up, which was a relic from I don't know if it was from the 70s, if that's when it was installed, but the fashion for it was created in the 70s. Thank you, Ben Cooper, subscribing via Prime for 54 months. Evening all, Merry Christmas, and may all your donuts turn out like Fanny's. Indeed, that is that's the line, isn't it? Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Ben Cooper.
But first of all, let's talk about this. Parson's nose off.
Set it in aspic, yeah.
Then you take the blunt side of a knife and you run it straight down the bird like this until it sinks in.
Parson's nose off.
And where it sinks in is the right place to make the cut for the wishbone. At least I shall look a silly clot if it isn't.
A silly clot?
Down you go. Turn your knife. Push it apart.
Right, that looked dangerous. That she was just forcing the sharp end of a knife against resistance there. Do not. I mean, I know I can't really talk from my behaviour in main menu, but this is not the right way to cut the wishbone of a chicken.
At least I shall look a silly clot if it isn't. Down you go. Turn your knife.
Oh, and it just gives.
There's the wishbone, which on a bigger bird, of course, you would divide in two.
Of course.
It's exactly the same thing for turkey, for goose, for everything. But when it comes to the breast flesh, none of those little papery bits, as I said. This is an ordinary pair of gardener's secateurs. It's all right, I've sterilised them.
Look at the blades on that. It's all right, I've sterilised them. She didn't even go to the garden centre and buy a second pair of brand new gardener's secateurs for her cookery. These are her garden secateurs. It's all right, she's sterilised them. And now she's about to slice a chicken in half with them. It's fine.
But if you haven't got proper poultry secateurs, and they're jolly difficult to get hold of these days.
Poultry secateurs? Never heard of them.
Like this with a pair of secateurs. And then...
Bloody hell, she nearly did her finger then. Look at that last cut.
Poultry secateurs, and they're jolly
That's a close one.
These days.
What's your index finger?
The bone like this with a pair of secateurs.
Oh my God.
Then snip it off round there, like that. Think of this for a moment as a really big one, and I'm going to take both of them off for you to see.
Off?
You see, it's so quick. Actually, we've timed me on this, and if I'm not talking...
It's not cooked, is it? It's not ready.
In 3.5 minutes. Now then.
Fanny's finger off.
There. Make an incision there. And everybody gets a lovely fat lumpy bit.
Gristly bit.
Those beastly bits tasting of the knife.
She's
then
serving...
And snip through the bone. One. I did scrub my hands before I started.
Oh, great, yeah. You have had them up a raw turkey, though, but fine.
Snip through there. Snip through there.
Hello, Duke McChicken. We're just carving up a Duke McChicken now with some garden secateurs.
Snip through there. Now, isn't that much easier? And that is my whole aim and object in these programs. To share with you the ways that I have found that life is easier for the housewife. Because, you know, it's my considered opinion that Christmas is just about slave labour for the women.
Now, she's no women's lib. She's not such a clot. However, Christmas is slave labour for the women. It doesn't even enter into her mind that some households, maybe the man is doing this job. No. It's all women are doing this job right now. And it's slave labour for them. I mean, she's not wrong with 50% of that, but yeah.
We shall deal with the question of nitty mince pies, because I got fed up with those. Men hate them anyway.
Men hate them anyway. Again, it's all quite well, I don't know what the word would be. Old-fashioned.
We shall deal with the question of saving time on that. We shall deal with the question of saving time over the Christmas pudding, over everything.
I mean, let's face. I mean, you know, as you say, mysterious earwig. If I saw a man cooking, I'd get the vapors. Well, indeed. I mean, her husband at this time, Johnny, Major Johnny Cradock, was, you know, into his cooking as well. So it's not like she wasn't familiar with the notion of men cooking. But frankly, she is correct. In 1974, most of, not all, but most of the cooking around the country was being done by women, by wives and mothers. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or the right thing, but it is factually accurate that in general it was the ladies of households doing all of this work. So she's not wrong.
And now, before I go, just to show you what happens to the mushrooms, Sarah and I, there's your presentation dish.
It's lovely, Fanny.
Sarah and I roasted a chicken with the mushrooms underneath, and there they are.
The mushrooms have gone down.
All beautifully moistening the bird and sitting shrunk completely.
That's a better cooked chicken, I would say.
Ready for you to carve it. Thank you so much for watching. Next time, we're going to revive the lovely old-fashioned round Christmas pudding.
Christmas pudding. There we go. So that's what we've produced today. Tuck in, everyone. Good. Yeah, that was a little mention of Sarah again. We will see more of Sarah as we go. That's the end of episode 1. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're ready. I mean, I could eat a roast chicken right now. Maybe not that one. I don't trust where it's been or what's been in it. But hey. Thank you, Fanny. 1975. I mean, I'm wrong. 1975 is when this was. So we're only on the 49-year anniversary of this. So we've done Your Christmas Bird. That was episode 1. Christmas puddings.
Hello.
Hello. You look fabulous. Look at even the tree is just so 70s. I love it. I really do. Oh, take me back. I mean, don't, because it sounds like it was actually not a very nice time to live in. It's just easy to look back with rose-tinted spectacles, isn't it?
One of these days you'll see this finished. Actually, it'll be on the last program.
She decorates the tree a bit at the start of each episode, but mostly I think Sarah is probably decorating it out of frame. And then Fanny just puts two ornaments on it. Brown tinted spectacles, yeah. Don't worry, I've sterilised them.
Here we are. Now, we're going to deal with the Christmas pud because, of course, it's one of the focal points. But I want you to revive the round Christmas pud. You know how gorgeous it used to look on Christmas cards? Old-fashioned ones, they're great big round Christmas pud with a bit of holly in the middle. But, of course, in the days when we did it in this country, it was done in the old copper. I mean, you boiled the clothes all the week, and on Christmas Day you boiled the pudding. But there isn't...
I bet you did. You boil the clothes all... I mean, at least you're boiling them, I guess. It's going to kill all the nasties. But people would boil their clothes all week in the copper and then boil a pudding in it. There's no way Fanny isn't a witch. Itchy head and no toes and everything. I mean, there is a touch of Roald Dahl about her, isn't there? Yeah.
Any copper. So I've done a sort of Emmett Heath Robinson invention of my own, which anybody can copy. You take an ordinary sieve, it can be a large, small, or medium, whichever you like, and you simply bend the handle upwards, and it goes, because, I mean, we've been doing it for quite a long time. And then you stand it on something in a tall enough saucepan to take that height of handle. I'm using my sterilizer, but it's not necessary, as long as it just clears the lid, you see?
That's a sterilizer in the background there, I think, is what she's talking about. That giant pot is what she sterilized her secateurs in. I think a sterilizer, my understanding is, I think you just put whatever you want in that tub that you want to sterilize and just boil it for a while and hope that the 100 degrees Celsius kills the nasties. That's how it works. Don't worry about the fact that any microbes that were living on it before you sterilized it could have released various sort of toxins and harmful substances that aren't killed or destroyed by 100-degree heat, which is exactly why you can't just... If you take some chicken out of the fridge that smells really bad, you can't just say, oh, well, it's all right because I'm going to put it in the oven at 200 degrees for half an hour. That will kill all the germs. You're right, it will kill all the germs, but it won't kill all the really bad stuff that they have been producing in that time. So some people erroneously think that heating anything to 100 degrees makes it safe, which is not strictly true. Anyway.
Now, I've used a base of a sliding base cake tin, sliding base out. I fit that in there, and then I call for help, and
from?
Here comes Sarah.
Here comes Sarah.
Turkey with aluminium foil inside the basin. It's all right, darling, I can reach. And then wax papers.
It's all right, darling, I can reach. Well, she's just giving you a hand, Fanny. Don't. There's no need to... Fanny created COVID-18 in that pot. Yeah.
Here comes Sarah, and I fit turkey with aluminium foil inside the basin. It's all right, darling, I can reach.
All right. Just... Or thank you, Sarah. Maybe the words you're looking for, but sure.
And then wax papers inside that.
Now take a look at these wax papers she's using. Just take a note of them. They're just plain looking papers.
And I said wax papers, and I've got to contradict myself, which
I
hate doing. They're ordinary oil bits of greaseproof, and I'm stupid.
Oh, oiled greaseproof, and she's stupid. All right, but anyway, just look at those on the ones she's making right now, because later on we're going to see one she made earlier, and it's a strange moment for this BBC production. Let me just say it that way. But just clock those, just greaseproof paper, you know.
There.
And I'm stupid.
Now,
She did just say that, yeah.
And I said wax papers, and I've got to contradict myself, which I hate doing. They're ordinary oil bits of greaseproof, and I'm stupid. There. Now, this mixture, of course, like everything else...
Watch her hurl this in. This, again, is kind of the way my grandma operates in the kitchen. She'll slam things around. She's, like, not a bad cook. Like, it's all good, but she dodds things in like that, and, you know, she'll serve stuff to you like that as well. In the nicest way. Like, she's not in a mood or anything. She's, like, smiling and looking around, and, you know, like... And she'll have 10 people around the table. She'll put something in a bowl in the kitchen and bring it into the dining room, and she'll just slam the bowl down in front of you. With this kind of...
Is in the booklet. You'll hear all about that.
Oh, she's not doing it here. She does it later, I think.
I found in the vaults of Escoffier.
No, she's spooning that in. That's fine.
You've all gone so mad about it that I can never be allowed to produce any other recipe for Christmas pudding anymore. It's all right. I scrubbed my hands before I started.
Right.
But you can't cook without using your hands. Now, you see, you get enough in there to make the ball shape.
Yeeting,
I think
yeah.
about there, don't you, Sarah? Just one more dollop, like that.
Sarah does not utter a word at any point in all 5 episodes. And Fanny, it's almost like Sarah knows that she's not supposed to speak, and Fanny is trying to make her speak. And if Sarah says a word, she's in big trouble. And she's like, don't reply, don't reply. She's trying to trick you. She's trying to make you... Don't say anything.
You get enough in there to make the ball shape. And I think we're about there, don't you, Sarah? Just one more dollop. Like
Speaking roles pay more,
this Christmas
indeed.
pudding mixture, thank you, my love, when you make it, is very loose with the ale and the various other things that you add with liquid in the
Doesn't look great, does
This
it?
Christmas
I know
pudding
it's Christmas
mixture,
pudding mixture,
thank you,
but
my
I
love,
mean...
when you make it, is very loose with the ale.
It does look like it was very loose when it came. Yeah, that's certainly very loose.
And the various other things that you add in the way of liquid in the eggs, of course. But you are asked in the recipe, of course, to leave it overnight. And it has a very, very high preponderance of breadcrumbs, and therefore is a much more easily digestible Christmas pudding.
Now, something I think is really interesting about this, I don't know if it's necessarily evident in this particular instance, but when she's using bits of tin foil, or she might have like a little baking tray or something like that, like a ceramic one, like a roasting tin thing. everything's a little bit used, which is fine. But like even the foil is all very crinkled, like she's probably cooked with it twice before. And I don't know if that's a Fanny Cradock thing. I don't know if it's just something that was a BBC budgetary thing and was maybe had always been the case from the the 50s, the 50s onwards. I can't remember when the BBC started. Was it the? Well, it's just celebrated 100 years actually, hasn't it? So I guess the 20s or the 30s, perhaps. Or perhaps it's even a 1975 thing. There being a Cosy Lives, you can't afford to be tearing off new bits of foil as you go. Waste not, want not. Indeed, Trialing Badger, you're absolutely right. Her purse can't run for one-use paper. It's probably I grew up during the war thing. Exactly that, Ben Cooper. Again, my grandma does a lot of this. But I just think it's just so interesting to see the way that, again, whatever the reasoning is, but Fanny Cradock cooking on the BBC in 1975 is using like sort of old foil, chipped baking trays, just used things from her kitchen and things that have been used once before. Bits of, and again, the wax papers that I alluded to earlier, you'll see that they are very much waste not, want not, make, do, and mend kind of things. And you compare that to, if you saw a cookery program nowadays, they'd probably have, multiple cameras, one of them on a crane. They'd probably do 2 whole takes where they cook the whole thing from start to finish. They'd have brand new, probably sponsored cookware being used on camera, product placement, and God knows what else. It's a different time, It's a different time. It's okay. She boiled the truss out of that foil before using it. I'm sure she did, yeah.
And it's very light, but you'll be able to see the finished one, so you'll know with absolute confidence that it's rich and dark and yummy. Now, the bottom half, of course, is going to be perfect. The top half isn't, but as you switch that over at half-time and steam for the second half-time, the other way round, you see, simply take it out. I can do it for you if you like. You see, there's the perfect half, and then you make that one perfect by banging it in the other way. You can do it from the start, or you can do it later.
Yeah, but not when you've got like 6 layers of foil folded in. As hard as you push that into the sieve, it's not going to be round at the bottom of the pudding because you've got loads of foil sort of sitting in the bottom of it, surely.
Whatever you like. Now, Sarah will take that and we shall steam it later.
Sarah?
So she's coming over here with me for the one that is ready as it would be on Christmas Day. That is to say, it's had 10 hours steaming. It's all right, Sarah, I can manage. 10 hours, but it's ready.
She says Sarah's coming over with me. Sarah doesn't come over, and I don't know if it's because Sarah's still tidying up and she's about to come over in any moment, or if Sarah has maybe forgotten that she's supposed to be over there and helping out with the boiling hot Christmas pudding. Fanny's in there, sort of moving the pants to one side that she's boiling away.
By banging it in the other way, you can do it from the start, or you can do it later, whichever you like. Now, Sarah will take that and we shall steam it later. So she's coming over here with me for the one that is ready as it would be.
She's coming over here with me.
That is to say, it's had 10 hours steaming. It's all right, Sarah, I can manage.
It's all right, Sarah, I can manage.
Steaming, standing on another cake ring here. Then it's been left for several days to...
Bloody hell! That must be hot. It's steaming in the background and she's touching the metal...
Steaming. It's all right, Sarah, I can manage. 10 hours steaming, standing on another...
That is steaming. It's not just there for show. That is still actually boiling on there. And look, she's touching the...
cake ring here. Then it's been left...
Look at that. I did see one other clip of her from a black and white program that she did once where she took some they were basically like mozzarella sticks. They weren't that, but they were some French 1970s version of mozzarella sticks. She was flash frying them in boiling hot oil, and she took them out with her fingers, and she said, "It's all right, as you know, I have galvanized, I have cast iron hands, as I'm sure you know by now." I mean, Christ alive.
For several days to make my point, and then steam for 4 hours as you will steam it on the day.
Right, now ready for this, the big reveal? Remember those wax papers, the greaseproof paper that we saw.
Unwrap. So
The make, do, and mend really comes into its own here.
we lose all that little lot, and here comes the pudding.
This is the BBC.
There are the butter papers that I put on the other one. I see there's one there that's come off some butter, so we don't want you to see any labels. That would be a shame and a disgrace.
We don't need to see any labels. That would be a shame and a disgrace. You are not supposed to show brands. Yeah, 10 hours, by the way. Yeah, 10 hours it's been boiling. You are not supposed to show brands on the BBC, but she has that was just one of several wrappers from some Lurpak. So someone has finished some butter. She's finished some butter at some point 2 weeks ago, and she's kept the wrapper from her butter because it's useful for wrapping up a Christmas pudding. It does look very greasy, doesn't it?
Now pull the dish towards me. Fold this well down here. Oh, it's hot.
Lurpak, I mean, God. the full shot.
And none of that business of prodding it out of a pudding basin.
Look how wet it looks.
And look at the colour of it. And look at the richness.
Richness, yeah.
And if there's a
Oh, you can hear the...
little bit of cheat in the kitchen and you've got clean hands, you're not absolutely satisfied with
You can
the
just
shape
about...
out of a pudding basin. And look at the colour of it. And look at the richness. Ooh. And if there's a little bit of cheat in the kitchen and you've got clean hands, you're not absolutely
It's just sort of
satisfied with the
squelching
shape
a
or
bit.
of that. Now, the holly. This is in an old spud, because I found out that if you shove a piece, you see it somewhere, you're out for a drive or something, you don't have a garden, and you see a lovely piece in somebody's, your side of the hedge, or by the side of the road, take it home, shove it in a spud.
She's such a teacher. Your side of the hedge. But she's about to say, in somebody's garden, and she's like, oh, I can't say that, can I? What I mean is...
See it somewhere, you're out for a drive or something, you don't have a garden, and you see a lovely piece in somebody's, your side of the hedge, or by the side of the road. Take it home, shove it in a spud, and it will last up to 3 weeks.
Wow.
And you know it's probably going to be another wildly expensive item this Christmas.
Sarah's ready to go. Wildly expensive item this Christmas. Even the holly in 1975 was I mean, my purse won't stretch to holly these days. Boring lonely, you're right. A sticky toffee pudding would be much nicer than a Christmas pudding. Oh, I really want an STP now. That'd be lovely. Right.
Now, may I repeat, in case I haven't made my point strongly enough, everything that I've spoken of, every single thing, is written down for you in the booklet.
Here comes
The
Sarah.
times of the steaming, every single ingredient, how you make it in an ordinary pudding basin, and how you do it this way. I want to introduce you to my brandy butter.
It's about... Hello, Brandy Butter. Nice to meet you. I did go to school with Brandy, with an I, Butter. It's about to get very 1970s. Look at this.
This is an ordinary little glass coupe that I've got to use for grapefruit or something like that. This is brandy butter coloured pale green. The recipe's in the booklet. Studded with little tiny economical scraps of angelica, glassy cherries, little bits of nut, and it's got a cellophane bow there. Now, when you make it, you...
That is the 1970s. Not many people know this, but the decade of the 1970s was transformed by a witch. Her name may or may not have been Fanny Cradock. The entire period of time was transformed magically into a helping of brandy butter, and that is it. That's the one. That's the decade that was cursed into the form of a of a cup of
coloured pale green. The recipe's in the booklet.
Not enough jelly to be 70s. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, it does look like a Doctor Who monster. Yeah.
Studded with little tiny economical scraps of angelica.
Why green? Asked Sprout Stuff. Everything was green.
Now, when you make it, you
or
can
pink,
get this right out of the
or
water,
orange, or
again,
yellow.
3 weeks before Christmas. Because you then take another piece, which I couldn't put on, or you wouldn't have seen the brandy butter at all, tent it over and pull it in by the bow, and then put it in your fridge. Put it on the table, tented, and then just cut through and open it out, so it looks rather like a flower when you present it on Christmas night. And it looks lovely, and it tastes gorgeous. It's my favourite recipe. Everything's my favourite this year because...
Yeah, wrap your goblet of brandy butter in some red cellophane and then cut it open and it looks like a flower.
I feel that if they've been a success and they've been my friends and family's favourites, they'll be all right.
Yeah, a lot of brown actually in the
And
70s as well. A
therefore,
lot
high
of
on
brown.
My priorities is my mum's trifle. When we put this trifle on a Christmas buffet, it doesn't matter whether we've got.
She says
80 people
she says
or high on
buffet
my-
really strangely. She says it a couple of times throughout this thing. She says buffet.
My priorities is my mum's trifle. When we put this trifle on a Christmas buffet, it doesn't matter whether we've got 80 people and dozens of puddings, it's always the first to vanish. And that's my Swiss roll recipe in the booklet and apricot puree before it's rolled up.
You have to make a whole bloody Swiss roll before you could even make this trifle. Because, I mean, back in the day, you probably wasn't that easy to just go into a shop and get a load of sponge just ready-made. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't available, but, you know, it's not... We live in such a convenience-based world now where you want to make a trifle, just go buy some sponge fingers, go buy a bit of sponge, go buy Swiss roll, whatever. You have to bake it to begin with for a start, probably for most people.
Now, when you've done that, you moisten it. I think this business of sherry is horrid in trifle.
Oh,
Sorry
all
if I
right.
offend you, but
Never
it's a
mind.
positive. Of course, you can use it instead with this if you want to. So
She probably didn't like sherry because it's Spanish. She'd rather have champagne or something else French. Bit of, I don't know, Bordeaux.
a light mixture of fresh orange juice and sweet, inexpensive sweet white wine, the one called Sauterne, spelled with an S always. And you moisten.
Why are you
until you've got
shaking it
enough
around? I just
mixture
pour it in.
over there. And how you tell...
Poured it at the end. Why shake it around?
And if you feel any dry
Hyacinth
bits, there are
buffet.
one or two there.
Indeed, Hyacinth Buffet. Thank you very much, Jeff the Molly Goose, for the bits there. And then she just puts more of all that stuff in, but individually now for some reason.
You add a little more of each, do you see? The Sauterne this time from the bottle. And the orange
Oh, she actually, I'm not even joking. She's actually putting French wine in it. I was joking, but I think in that cup is some French alcohol, not sherry, because she thinks this business of sherry and trifle is horrid.
trifle. I'm sorry if I offend you, but it's a personal thing. Of course, you can use it instead with this if you want to. So I've used a light mixture of fresh orange juice and sweet, inexpensive sweet white wine, the one called Sauterne, spelled with an S always. And you moisten.
Maybe that's not. I'm not sure what she's saying there.
Over there. And how you tell.
Probably is
is
French.
to take a spatula and press, and if you feel any dry bits, there are one or two there, you add a little more of each. Do you see? The Sauterne this time from the bottle.
There's no way she isn't sipping
The
that on
orange
the
juice is
sly.
my
Yeah.
favourite kind of lemon squeezer. I think these are far better than anything that ever existed. So you just push it in and squeeze.
Jesus,
And
the
it's
cameraman can't
orange
keep
juice is
up.
My favourite kind of lemon squeezer.
Look at this
I think
desperate
these are far
camera
better
work.
than anything that ever existed. So you just push it in and squeeze. And it's gorgeous.
This thing, if you've not noticed, by the way, is being live directed. It's not going out live, but they have a couple of cameras on the go, but clearly there's someone perhaps in a gallery or just off to one side, and they are cutting from camera to camera because she's sometimes looking at the wrong camera. Now, if this was being edited after the fact, you would just cut to the camera that she's looking at, you know? And there are a couple of moments where things are obscured and they desperately suddenly cut to a different camera. But, you know, the BBC's purse strings won't run to multiple reels nowadays. So, yeah, no post-editing here. This is all just being recorded with a director cutting from one to another. Yeah, the BBC did not do 2 takes. 1 take Cradock, that's her.
Right. Now, the next thing to come is softened chocolate chips.
She is a bit Margot, isn't she?
Meantime,
Yeah.
I'll put the apricot puree over the top. You just spread that over. And now that the sponges are nice and squudgy, you make a sort of dog's dinner of it at this
Squudgy.
stage. Push that all over. And if you don't begin to feel hungry while I'm making this, I shall have failed myself, won't
I'm
I?
sorry, Fanny. I'm not really...
Now we've got all the lovely things in there. Now here comes the chocolate. Now may I have, please, a serious word about this? If you put the chocolate chips in a saucepan and melt them down over a little hot water, they will be perfect. But they will not be perfect unless you add something which we call in the kitchen professionals stock sugar syrup, so that you get it of the creamy consistency of thick cream.
Okay.
And first, when it's softened, you beat it You know what I said to you last
Like-
time about thinking of
like I
something
did
somebody
Sarah
don't like
yesterday.
and mix it of the creamy consistency of thick cream. And first, when it's softened, you beat it. You know what I said to you last time about thinking of somebody you don't like and taking it out on the sauce. Well, you give it a really good sloshing, and then you beat a little jar of this stock sugar syrup on, which is a very nice thing to have on your shelves because there are hundreds of different uses for it, and that's all chatted about in the booklet. It's really more of a small book than a booklet this year, because I've been allowed to put such a lot in for you.
She did one every year. Not for Christmas every year. Sometimes it would be the book at the end of the year would just be all of the recipes and TV appearances and stage appearances she'd done that year. So it wouldn't necessarily be Christmas themed.
That never sets hard, like those awful profiterole when you get hard chocolate and it cracks over your teeth.
Awful profiterole. She's got opinions. She's got so many opinions.
And then over the top goes another classic recipe, which is in the booklet, confectioner's custard. I want you to look at that, because you can see I've put some cream into it, which is still a little lumpy.
Jesus.
And so before I use it, I beat half the quantity of either whipping or double cream, because it's a question of money again, which we're all thinking of all the time.
Yeah.
And you make the choice, because they both whip beautifully. And that goes right over the top and locks that in. No wonder Mum invented a good trifle. There we go.
I'm all right, Fanny. I'll pass.
I touched that bowl with the chocolate, haven't I? So don't write and tell me, because I've seen it.
Don't write and tell me. She apparently gets letters. I mean, I think she says something else.
There we go. Now we level that off. Very evenly and neatly. Doesn't matter if a few streaks of chocolate come through one little bit. You'll see what's going to happen next. Get it all out. I can't bear it when I get a cue to hurry up on television and I have to leave mixture in the bowl. And sometimes you write me cross letters about it. And it's only because somebody's waggling their hands, which you can't see, saying, get over there and do the rest of it.
Get over there and do the rest of it. Breaking the fourth wall. There's someone behind the camera waggling their hands. So apparently people, because there was nothing else to do in the 1970s and, there were blackouts all the time and you could barely, you couldn't turn the telly on or you couldn't, listen to the radio. I guess people were lighting candles and writing letters by candlelight to Fanny Cradock saying, do you know, you accidentally dipped that bowl in the chocolate. That tiny little speck of brown on the bowl. I saw you do that, Fanny. Kind regards, Furious from Newcastle. Or, complaining that she's not scraping the bowl out enough because, it's 1975 and there's a cost of living crisis going on or a depression or whatever the turn of phrase at the time was. It's the comment section, basically. Prehistoric YouTube comments, yeah.
There, now that's not wasteful. Nice clean bowl. Clean up the edge where I've made splashes. And take it over here. Now, Sarah's going to bring me my cream.
Oh.
This custard, you must remember, is, of course, cold. Thank you, my darling. But it's the confectioner's custard that you can, again, make, cover either with a sheet of wetted greaseproof paper or with a tablespoon, hot tablespoon, run over butter, and then run it over the top. And you can
She
keep it
loves a
waiting
piping
for
bag,
up to
Fanny
3
Cradock.
weeks
She used to do a lot of piping.
in mild domestic refrigeration. That was a bit of a wiggle, wasn't it? I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. Now, you pipe your cream all the way over. And then you use some... Mummy used them originally. And this
Mummy?
is how I knew about it. Chocolate leaves. We'll come to that presently. When you're using these icing bags, if you remember to twist them before you start work, you will never run the risk of having the cream ooze out of the bag. Now, I'm being naughty here and unorthodox because I like to do it with one hand.
Oh.
But if I were doing it the professional way, I would do it like this.
The French way is this.
Using the pressure here with the finger and then pulling it out. So you pay your money and you take your choice. You do it whichever way makes it easiest for you and looks best when you've done it. You must have a nice big swirl in the center.
You must.
And you must have rosettes all the way around the edge. They're frightfully important because they're going to hold the chocolate leaves in position when we come to them.
Chocolate leaves?
But the great thing to remember is that what I want you to watch...
It's rosettes as well. Piped rosettes, very 70s.
Happy 420 BBB blazed my dude's Lord 16 dab. I don't think Robot Lady will say Miss Cradock's last name.
Cradock.
Here are some cooking jokes instead. Why do beginner chefs cook only Asian food? They need to walk before they can run. Ha ha ha.
Excellent.
Who won the Asian cooking contest? It was a tie. Hi. How long do you cook your pasta in hell? Until it's al dente. Ho ho ho. What do you
Al
call a
dente.
chef who's also a lawyer? A sous chef. Ha ooh ooh. Why did the Italian chef get an award? Because he passed a test. Hi hoo.
Nice. I like it. Thank you for blazing it, Lobrotovich, and thank you for the bits very much. 420, everyone, blaze it, my dudes.
Yeah.
Here she goes. Oh.
B cooking B Christmas B chocolate B Fanny B cooking with Christmas blaze it.
Stephen managed to get past the managed to get her to say Fanny. Well done. Very impressive. Rosettes out of a piping bag, very 70s. How else do you think she got that green mashed potato onto the plate?
Which is what I'm doing, and what you have got, with absolute confidence, to fall back on, is every single thing written down in the booklet.
In the booklet.
Exact information, and like the turkey, which had all its times, and all the other birds, so on this, you've got all the little details that iron out the creases for you. Because what I've tried to do is to draw on all the queries that I've had in past years, and then incorporate them in the answers, so that none of you were foxed. Now, these chocolate leaves.
Look at these.
Some of you will remember them because you loved them when I first introduced you to them. Have a look at that one. You can see that the veins and all the
That is so much trussing
are
cream.
identically
Yeah.
produced. And all you have to do is to pick a few rose leaves in the garden, which in an English garden you can get right up till Christmas.
An English garden.
And then just wipe them in case there's been a passing critical bird or greenfly in the garden. You know?
A critical bird.
But don't do any more. Don't oil them or anything like that. And
Look at this.
then soften chocolate chips. And when they're soft and beaten, the same as I've been explaining to you exactly for the sauce that's under there, the next thing you do is take a leaf, rose leaf, not a whole stem of them, but just one single leaf with a tiny little bit. You can see
I
the
don't
tiny
mean
little
to
bit
be
on that
rude,
one if you
Fanny,
look
but
closely.
that looks like crap.
And then tow it over the surface of the chocolate. And that way, when you lay it down on a baking sheet, never put them near the refrigerator, or they'll all turn grey and be simply horrible. Now, don't say I haven't warned you.
All right.
Never near the refrigerator.
Never
Let them dry at room
near the
temperature.
refrigerator.
And then take the back of the leaf and just peel it off, and lo and behold, there's all the veinings. And don't tell that woman next door, and then you've got a bit of one-upmanship to boast about, which she doesn't know anything about.
That woman next door. Spinster.
And now then for the cherries. I was very lucky considering
Oh,
how
bloody
short they are
hell.
now. I was able to find red glacé cherries, which are going on both sides.
Hard to come by red glacé cherries in
Well, would you like to come
1975,
and do this
apparently.
with me, because they'll drop off with boredom. If we
Oh,
don't
yeah,
get
she
them
calls
on,
Sarah
I'll
in
put
for
them
help
in
now.
there, and I'll take the debates. So I'll do those. And Vera, would you like to come and do this with me, because they'll drop off with boredom.
Are
If
you
we
guys
don't
dropping
get
off
them
with
on,
boredom
I'll
yet?
do them I'm doing on my own. I'll take the beige ones, you take the green ones. And now the beige ones down there, on both sides, that's right. Got the green ones, back up, that's right. And then my hand this side of yours.
She's very,
Poor
very
darling,
scary,
she's so
isn't she?
nervous on television, her hands are shaky. I only shake for the first half minute. There we are. That's right.
Calling her
Not a
out,
lot
saying your
there.
hands are shaking.
So, and we've done it.
I don't think they are.
And completed Mum's trifle, which I hope very much will vanish.
Good old
first
Sarah.
on your buffet, the same as it's done on Mum's, on mine, and now on Sarah's as well.
There's the freeze frame. That's the one we all want to see. Roald Dahl is calling.
And many other girls that have worked.
I don't know what it ends quite abruptly, by the way, that one. It's just that's the end. I think she was short on time because someone was waving behind the camera, remember? I don't know what Sarah's doing nowadays, Lord Brotovich. We'll have to look her up. That was it.
On mine, and now on Sarah's as well, and many other girls that have worked.
We don't even get the close-up. But there's the Christmas pud. There's the mountain of brandy butter. Who's going to use all that brandy butter? What's going on? And the bizarre trifle. All right, episode 3. Christmas cake. This is a fascinating episode.
Well, you may wonder at this rather dull assembly of cakes.
Well, why are you not decorating the tree at the start of this episode? Sarah's over there. She's got the tinsel out.
You see, over recent years, you have created the demand for my mother's grandmother's black plum cake, and I have to make it every year.
Bloody hell, it doesn't look real, does it? It's like when you go to a museum, like a history, you know, where they've like made up all the rooms with a great big table and wax dummies eating food, and there's a fake cake on it. The state of that.
Never have you seen this. And if you run away with the idea that that's a bit of Madeira fruit cake, I'll go right off you, because it's called a white Christmas cake.
She'll go right off you.
Of course, that's so logical. But it is the most wonderful one, and I've never shared it with anybody on television before. It's absolutely...
That is dry. It is. It's a very well-preserved slab of Roman road. It looks that dry. Indeed, Dr. Goblin. Why did she put so much emphasis on the word black, did she? Well, it's because this is the white one, I think. I think she's differentiating. Speed through.
You may wonder this rather dull assembly of cakes, but you see, over recent years, you have created the demand for my mother's grandmother's black plum cake, and I have to make it every year.
Yeah, I think she's just set, you know, because this is her special white Christmas cake, which is her own recipe. Because obviously the black Christmas cake is the traditional one that kind of looks, apart from the fact that it's dry as hell, and indeed does look like it weighs more than, what did someone just say? Has it gone? Has the message gone? Oh, those cakes look heavier than dark matter, indeed. Apart from that, it is fairly traditional, whereas the one on the left, I think, is not. It's like a special one that she's come up with, so she calls it the white Christmas cake.
But never have you seen this. And if you run away with the idea that that's a bit of Madeira fruit cake, I'll go right off you, because it's called a white Christmas cake, because it's beige, of course, that's so logical. But it is the most wonderful one, and I've never shared it with anybody on television before. It's absolutely spit new. And so we're going to make
spit
it
new. I should hope not.
But that one eventually will be cut so that you can compare it after we've made it with the one we're going to do. So there are the two plain ones, the old black plum and the new white Christmas. Here is the new white Christmas, the old black plum covered with almond paste. We're going to try and do that too, and everything else we can in the time. So
almond paste we're going to see a lot of today, which I checked is not the same as marzipan. It's different.
Go over here. And I want to say straight away to you that, as some of you may already know, the finished appearance of your iced Christmas birthday or other celebration cake must depend, and does wholly, upon the preparation of the tin in the first place. So let's take that for a start.
Right.
This is a sliding glass cake tin, which is the
scary.
ideal kind to have if you can manage it. I'm not going to push it up now because it's just got the papers inside and it'll all collapse. And inside is the paper cut to the depth of your cake, which you measure, plus its diameter in 1 inch. All this is written down in this booklet, which has got so much in it, but it's not a booklet, really. It's a small book.
Plus its diameter and 1 inch.
And you cut it 1.5 inches higher than that depth of the cake. And then you oil it on both sides, not just on one. Now, look, see what I mean. If you oil it on both sides, then that side sticks to the tin.
Clever.
And this side is oiled so that this mixture won't stick to it. And it makes the whole thing easier. So now that's how we're going to have our cake tin, you and me both, when we make our Christmas cakes. Now, obviously, I've done the buttercream.
She's done the washing up in that 2 minutes beforehand, probably. Still has a few old peas in it.
And I'm not giving you quantities now because everything is booklet.
Okay.
I've creamed that until it's loose and floppy. And I want you to see...
Don't. Fanny, don't even...
just how easy it is to make up these mixtures. In here, I've got
bloody
4
hell
lots of things. Sultanas, chopped seeded raisins, glassy cherries, and peel. You don't want to make any mistakes with this cake because it's a pretty naughty one for this time, you know, this price range that we're living with at the moment. But on the other hand, we do want one piece of decent cake in the air. This is a few walnuts going
Well,
in.
yours looks rock solid. You're spending all this money on it, creating a doorstop.
And then the flour, which is mixed with corn flour. And I want you to have one decent piece of cake, and I think we can all save and sacrifice for that. And you see, everything can go in absolutely pell-mell.
Pell-mell. Love that. I'm going to add pell-mell to my vocabulary. It just means, I think, in a mix, or without any sort of, you just hurl it in. It goes in pell-mell.
Plus, a little bit of chopped angelica, a little bit of glacé cherries from the sweet shop, and a little bit of glacé ginger from the sweet shop.
You've already done glacé cherries, haven't you, in this big
4
bowl?
lots of things. Sultanas, chopped seeded raisins, glacé cherries,
Just put more separately, more glacé cherries.
A bit of glacé ginger from the sweet shop, all diced up.
From the sweet shop. Imagine being able to go to the sweet shop and buy glacé ginger. Christ.
Then you have your fluids all mixed up together in a jug. Now these fluids are the eggs well beaten up, a little bit of cheapest cooking brandy from a miniature bottle, drop of orange flower water and rose water from the chemist, and I'll have more to say about that, so please wait for it, but I've put it in the booklet as well.
What is going on? Right, so 2 waters from the chemist. What did she say before that? What was the... She said 4 things in that jug. The second thing, I didn't even hear what she said.
All diced up. Then you have your fluids all mixed up together in a jug. Now these fluids are the eggs.
Now what?
Well beaten up. A little bit of cheapest cooking brandy from a miniature bottle.
Cheapest cooking... I don't know what she said.
Drop of orange...
It's all in the booklet.
Flower water and rose water from the chemist, and I'll have more to say about that.
Cooking brandy. Well worked out, everyone. I missed that.
And finally, the strained juice and the grated rind of an orange. I thought I'd have this here to show you I have strained the juice. And that the rind has already been grated. And don't grate it till you get down to the dead white, because then it makes the cake bitter.
She's so severe. Don't do that. Don't grate it down to the white.
And then you slosh all that mixed pell-mell of fluids in.
Pell-mell.
And I have scrubbed and scrubbed downstairs in the makeup room and got my fingernails and my hands spotless. And of course, there's no...
I beg your pardon?
Slosh all that mixed pell-mell of fluids in there.
What did she...
And I have scrubbed and scrubbed downstairs.
Okay, that's fine.
In the makeup room and got
in the
my
makeup room
and my hands spotless, and of course there's no nail varnish on them, and I'm going to use them unashamedly because that's the best way to make a good cake. And you work up your mixture like this. You take it and squeeze it through your fingers. I hope you can see this really well. I'm tipping it as far as I dare.
I think this is where my grandma throws
and you simply
raw
use
cake mix around
motion so that you
violently.
bring the flour into everything else. Now hold it like this.
Christ, the size of that bowl.
Work it up. And then once again, that same old thing that you and I have said about somebody that you've never really liked, and you give it a good slosh like this, but you've really done the work. Come on, Sarah. You know my Sarah.
Come on,
now.
Sarah.
She's going to help me this next
Yeah, just sort of fisting it in.
Dump that.
Dump is the word she
give it a
uses.
Good slosh like this, but you've really done the work. Come on, Sarah. You know my Sarah now. She's going to help me
Slap.
This next stage. And then you dump that into there.
Sarah's there.
That. One bit on the table, Sarah. But that's not bad, is it? That's it. And a filthy hand. Would you take that from me, darling? Thank you very much. Now you bang that down. No! Bang that. Sorry for that noise. Bang that down.
There's so much to unpack there. She says, one bit on the table, Sarah. As in, is she blaming Sarah? Is it Sarah's fault that she has dumped a bit on the table? Then she has a messy hand. She's telling Sarah to take things off, and then she yells at her.
That's it. And a filthy hand. Would you take that from me, darling? Thank you very much. Now you bang that down. No! Bang that. Sorry for that noise.
Sorry for that noise. Good grief. Sarah, she's on her final warning now. Which noise is she apologising for? I think, because when I first watched this several years ago, I thought she was apologising for going, no! But I think she's actually apologising for the clang. She's not apologising for the fact that she shouted no at Sarah.
It's not bad, is it?
It makes a bit of a clink noise, and that's what she's apologising for.
That's it. And a filthy hand. Would you take that from me, darling? Thank you very much. Now you bang that down. No! Bang that. Sorry for that noise. Bang that down with your knuckles. And make sure that when you've got it in...
I can't imagine a more stressful job than being Sarah.
You use a spatula. I'll show you this because I must do this vertically, and then I'll tip it up for you. You run it round with the spatula.
Horizontally.
And you make sure
Fanny.
that there's the faintest of indents in the middle. Very, very faint.
Okay.
And then, like that, with my filthy hand, we can't waste that glassy cherry, I can lift it up and show it
Not in
to you.
1975, you can't, no.
And see what it's like.
There you go.
And like that, it goes into the oven, which has been preheated for me. now at low. One shelf below center. Gas mark 4. And that stays for exactly 1 hour. Low center.
Now,
Gas mark 4.
an interesting thing about Fanny Cradock is she worked for the gas, not the gas board, the gas council, I think they were called. Separately, free, like sort of one of her and her husband, Johnny, worked for the gas council, which was a UK government body that provided strategic oversight of the gas industry in England, Wales, and Scotland between 1949 and it says 72, but this, well, I guess the point is, into the 70s, she worked and represented the gas council and was part of a drive to encourage people to bring gas cookers into their homes, because not everyone had a gas cooker at that time. She used to appear at trade shows such as the Ideal Home exhibition and made many infomercials instructing cooks, including newlywed women, on how to use gas cookers for basic dishes. And apparently, I'm reading this from Wikipedia, despite the BBC's ban on advertising, Cradock would only ever use gas stoves in her television shows and often stated that she hated electric stoves and ovens. So, I don't know if she was working for Lurpak as well, but she clearly did not give a damn about BBC regulations. She did have 4 husbands as well, that's true. At least one of them married her while also... No, she married one of them while a previous husband was still alive. She thought they were dead, but they were actually still alive and she was still married. So she was accidentally a bigamist. 3 died from being gassed. Yeah. These days we're going back to electric ovens from gas. She must be turning in her grave. I know, when I hear gas mark instructions, it's very confusing. I've used gas ovens occasionally at like Airbnbs and stuff, and it's a bit scary. But, you know. Right, now, I know earlier I said we peaked. It's about to get... I don't know where the peak is exactly in this series, but it's about to... A classic Fanny Cradock Cooks for Christmas moment is about to take place.
And that stays for exactly 1 hour. You don't mind, do you, if while I'm talking to you, Sarah puts the next lot of things in for me and I use the bucket? Because it's quite impossible to go on cooking with that hand.
Now, you don't mind, do you, while Sarah cleans up and I go on talking to you, that I use the bucket? It's not... If she said that I wash my hands, because, you know, there's no sink there. This has probably been hastily thrown together in an empty soundstage somewhere, an empty room. They've wheeled 2 cookers in, and they've got a gas line running along the floor that you can just barely not see out of frame. So this is not ordinarily a cooking setup, and they don't have the plumbing for a sink. And yes, she can't go on cooking with a hand full of cake mix. But don't say if I use the bucket trademarked. Indeed, Lord Brotovich, you've got, you know, it's the use of the definite article there that really throws me off. The bucket emerges from down below the workspace.
Exactly.
She's probably cleaned the pants in there earlier.
1 hour. You don't mind, do you, if while I'm talking to you, Sarah puts the next lot of things in for me and I use the bucket?
And I use the bucket.
Go on cooking with that hand.
The hyacinth
now, the
bucket.
gas mark 4, I've written all this down too, lasts for exactly 1 hour, after which you turn it down to gas mark 3. And you leave it for 20 minutes. I've timed this with the one I made for you, see, and you'll be looking at that, so I can't get away with very much.
No, believe me, she doesn't get away with anything when she cuts it open. It's not good.
That for 20 minutes, and then you turn it round in the oven so that what was the front...
Yeah, she used to work for the Bucket Council as well.
And you leave it for another 20 minutes. And there are 2 tests for baking. If you're not deaf, I think the very best is that you listen to it.
Right.
And you hear it singing faintly. That means it isn't quite cooked. But if it stops singing, it's perfect. And if you are deaf, then you use a skewer driven in.
That's the same rule she uses when she cooks her husbands as well. If they want, as soon as they stop singing, they're ready to come out.
And what I didn't do, Sarah, was to put it on my cake tin. cake base, which was very naughty of me. You want 4 folds of brown paper and stand it on, and then it never gets burnt on the bottom. It won't hurt to snatch it out. That's my girl.
It won't hurt to snatch it out. That's my girl. Probably Sarah's fault that it wasn't put on the tray. Sarah is going through it right now.
Now for the
She's a good mind.
almond paste. I got a little
Is she all right there?
practice cake here,
She's not
see?
got the cast iron hands there.
And you just put a little bit of apricot jam.
She's now using a
or jelly or something like that on there.
Johnny's
Slosh it.
paintbrush from
Take it and put it
the
up.
shed, which don't worry, I've sterilized it earlier. Johnny's paintbrush. She's painting marmalade onto the most rock solid cake I've ever seen.
A bit of rolled out almond paste.
Almond
like
paste.
That. Run a knife. All
The
way
state
around
of
it.
that.
All this palaver with lumps of almond paste dumped on the cop and working away with a rolling pin is sheer fiddle. It's not professional, it's not easy, because, you know, if you think about it,
Sheer
the
fiddle.
professional way must always be the best, because they've got to do it to make a living, haven't they?
A lot of the stuff that she cooks in these this series is when it's done, it looks fairly tasty. The chicken that wasn't undercooked looked quite nice. The idea of stabbing a goose all over, covering it in honey, and knowing that the fat is going to run out of it, and not make it all, give you indigestion, and the gravy that she was making in the trays underneath, some of the desserts that she's made. If you like Christmas pudding, maybe that one looked fairly appealing. The brandy butter, as ridiculous as it looked, probably tasted quite nice. So I'm, as much as her methods are unhinged, I'm not necessarily, for the sake of it, just going to say that certain foods, oh, that looks disgusting when it's finished, if it doesn't. That cake does not look good, right? I'm not just saying it because I'm quite happy to concede that some of the stuff does look quite tasty when it's finished. That cake does not look nice.
Brush the surplus off there, get rid of that, and then brush the sides.
Yes, that's so professional looking.
Or jam.
She's not finished yet.
And this time you come down that bit of almond paste too, and then when you've done it all, you use the brush to pick up that little bit of corn flour that's on the bottom, because it's
No Christmas cake does. I mean, that's true.
Rolled almond paste and royal icing, or the fondant that I've given you, which
Oh, I
found
love
out.
fondant.
I give you both in the book.
Royal
which
icing.
I found out you like so much better. To roll it over corn flour, because if you use flour and you want to keep your cake,
Then I'll go right off
that
you.
flour works, and your cake will rise into humps and lumps and bumps.
Humps,
And
lumps,
then what
and
you do?
bumps.
You simply dump the cake on there,
Dump.
pick up that piece of paste.
What is this almond paste?
Trundle it all the way around, work in the join, and you've got exactly what I had done for
She
you.
didn't work in that joint. She's just hidden
Trundle all the
it.
way around,
She tries to join it,
work in the join,
and she just turns it around.
and you've got exactly what I had done for you there.
Cheeky.
Now we lose that one. Sarah takes that away
Sarah,
from me.
please.
I clear the table down. I want, if it's possible, to take you right through the whole lot in a total time of 13 and a half minutes. This is the icing that you like so much.
I
which
love
is
this
called
stuff.
Fondant icing, and it's very easily made. Of course, I've got the recipe written for that as well for you. Thank you, my love. And it's nice if you can have
She's
a
redeeming
piece
herself.
of waxed paper. And
It's not
just-
marzipan, though, chat. It's not marzipan. I mean, you'd think it would be, but I've Googled it, and apparently it's not the same. Almond paste is not marzipan.
icing sugar over it, very, very thickly indeed.
Christ.
Now, you know, I've sometimes got a very naughty trick of wearing rings when I'm cooking, because I forget about them. Don't you wear any rings for this, or you'll be in dead trouble.
No. You'll be
I
in
want to
dead
talk to you
trouble.
about that orange flower water and rose water in our cake while I'm rolling this out. I once made something.
It's story time now. Story time with Fanny. It is a good Fanny story, actually. I like this story a lot. I'm not going to interrupt her. We're going to listen to Fanny's tale.
Which is a very, very famous pudding called Crème Marie Louise, and I made it on the stage to 2,500 people.
Wow.
And everybody loved it, and there was a lot of applause, and we were very happy about it. And then I had a dirty letter from a member of the audience.
grief.
She wrote me very, very crossly, and she said, I tasted the one you made on stage. I took away your printed recipes. I made it. It was disgusting. So, of course, I'll never have any of that. From a reader, I wrote back to her and I said, you tell me exactly what you did. Because if you did what I did, that's what I wrote down, that was what you ate, and it should have been perfect. And she told me, you know what she'd done?
What?
She'd gone to the chemist and she'd bought orange flower face lotion.
Oh.
And rose water face lotion. And she'd made a rich cream pudding with that. So please...
The delivery. And she made a rich cream pudding with that.
You know what she'd done? She'd gone to the chemist and she'd bought orange flower face lotion. And rose water face lotion. And she'd made a rich cream pudding with that.
I mean, if you will tell them to go to the chemists and buy stuff for your food, it's an easy mistake to make. What a clot. Yeah, indeed. What a trusting spinster. Supposedly almond paste is spreadable, says Ash Jaming. What she was using was not spreadable. No, you're right. Looking at it, it's just marzipan with egg in it. Almond meal, sugar, and egg whites / whole eggs. I don't know. So, hey, don't use orange or rose water face lotion or face solution. I'm not sure what she's saying there. She's muttering it. Face lotion in your baking.
So please, darlings, will you say when you go to the chemist that you want an orange flower water and a rose water, which are for culinary use? You see, there are these pitfalls. I've just had a query on a new book, cookery book, from a very clever woman with a lot of degrees. She doesn't know anything about cooking. So there's a marginal query. What is brill? Well, of course. No, bass. I felt like writing back and saying, well, you can either tie the plants up with the gardens or go to the fishmongers and buy it. It wouldn't make friends, would it? Now.
It's a bit lost on me, that. You can... What is bass? You can either go to the fishmongers and buy it, or you can what? Tie the...
Well, of course. No, bass. I felt like writing back and saying, well, you can either tie the plants up with the gardens or go to the fishmongers and buy it.
Tie the plants up with the... I don't know. Some kind of... I think there's a pun in there somewhere that she's doing, but it's a 1975 pun. Oh, basts, is she saying. Fibrous material from a plant. Oh, okay. Is bast also a type of fish? Or is she saying bass? No, it's bass. I don't know. She's doing a bit, and I'm not sure what it is.
It wouldn't make friends, would it? Now, this is the tricky part.
That's Sarah.
See, a lot of housewives don't like icing cakes, and they don't get them smooth, and they get themselves into a tizwas. But if you do this, you can treat it exactly like pastry paste. And you lift it up, and you pop it over, and you push it in. And you've got a perfect... I'm looking now...
Oh, can I have the offcuts, Fanny?
...of being able to see what I'm doing.
I would just eat that whole... I used to do... I do that still. If we're having cake, birthday cake or something, and it's got fondant icing on it like that, and, you know, I'm with, like, maybe my mum or my gran or maybe even my wife, someone who perhaps doesn't want their icing or doesn't want loads of icing, I will just eat raw icing. Well, not raw, I mean, you know, neat icing. God.
I should be able to go on and finish it, I don't quite know, but I'm going steadily on as far as I can. Now, you make an incision at one side, and you take away the surplus.
I do want Fanny's offcuts,
one
yeah.
join, and it fits in absolutely perfect.
She's hiding the join again.
And there's a bit of egg white if it's difficult to set that. And then with a straight eye, and mine is the most crooked in Christendom.
In Christendom.
Fondant away from the bottom.
I need a book of not Fanny Cradock's cookery. I need Fanny Cradock's vernacular in a book. I want to start saying pell mell. I mean, to be fair, she's not said spinster so far. She said maiden aunt.
White if it's difficult to set
in
that.
Christendom.
And then with a straight eye, and mine is the most crooked in Christendom, you cut all your surplus fondant away from the bottom. Easy.
Straight eye for the queer guy, yeah. Are you going to cook these things for Christmas, Peter? Is Amy going to have the best Christmas dinner since 1975? Well, sadly, the booklet is not easily available. So there's a lot that's left out here. She's like, oh, everything you need is in the booklet. I know you can pick up a lot of it from the video, and anything that you don't get, you can probably do a Google. But I'd be worried that if I Googled any details, it wouldn't be the authentic 1970s version. It would be some modern, like, oh yeah, just drop in a bit of this or that, which was not available to housewives of 1975. So what I would really like is for someone who does own the book to just do a scan of it and stick a PDF online, because there are still copies out there. But if you want to buy one, it costs you 200 quid, which, as much as I would love to own one of these, I'm not going to spend that much on it. So someone out there who's got it needs to do us all a favor and scan it in.
You'll probably want to know if there's anything complex about making the fondant. Well, there isn't. You have a little pot and you melt a bit of liquid glucose in it. Liquid glucose.
That's a highlight as well.
You have a little pot and you melt a bit of liquid glucose in it. Liquid glucose.
All right. Sorry.
And there is the second stage. We've done it. There's the almond paste on your cake, ready.
My mum's got a cake display board like that, one of those shiny ones. Maybe it's from the 70s.
Decorated.
Not glucose face lotion. No, don't use that.
Now, if I remove the subject, and this is what you use to stamp out little bits with fancy cutters into little circles and things, and then you put the candles in those, and you have to buy any cake.
No, you don't. You give the offcuts to Peter, Fanny. Give me your offcuts.
Because they're horribly expensive nowadays. Come on over here.
All right. Can Sarah come?
Now, these are 2 cakes that we've done. That is the white Christmas cake, and that is the old one we did before. I thought you would like to see 2 ways of icing that are really easy. This is nothing more nor less than florist's paper.
Paper.
You know, the kind you have the bows on bouquets. And Johnny, who's terribly good at these things, has pressed it into pleats and stuck it with a bit of Yoo-hoo. And
Yoo-hoo, is that a brand? Yoo-hoo adhesive. Oh yeah, UHU. Does it date back to the 70s, or is that a modern brand? Stuck it with a bit of Yoo-hoo. I've never heard of that. Well, I have when I've watched this thing, but I've never thought much about it. Stuck it with a bit of Yoo-hoo. That's I think the single mention of Johnny that we get today. Sarah gets far more airtime. Oh, and look, those are I've never noticed those before. You see, the candles are actually cut. They're in the offcuts of icing. Look, she's made candle holders with the offcuts. Yoo-hoo glue, yeah, it's a brand. We had that in the 80s, says Demented Space. I've never come across Yoo-hoo, I don't think.
The cake band instead of buying one. Now, I'm going to move that cake. Now, I'm going to pull that out of the way, because I'm going to cut you a slice of my white Christmas cake, and then you really have seen it from the cradle.
She's going to force it down. Look at this. You're going to bloody well eat this, all right?
And instead of buying one. Now, I'm going to move that cake. Now, I'm going to pull that out of the way, because I'm going to cut you a slice of my white Christmas cake, and then you really have seen it from the cradle to the grave. Well, not exactly to the grave, cradle to the tum, shall we say.
It may well be to the grave. Look at the state of that.
And what's this bit about fruit sinking in the middle and going down to the bottom? And, you know, it's money for old rope, isn't it?
What's this bit about the... Look at the driving... She needs a mallet to get it through.
From the cradle.
We know how sharp that knife is, because she used it on a turkey earlier and sliced through bone.
Cradle to the grave. Well, not exactly to the grave, cradle to the tum.
Oh, God.
There it is.
You'd have to dunk that into your tea.
And what's this bit about fruit sinking in the middle and going down to the bottom? And, you know, it's money for old rope.
It's just so dry.
I do hope you enjoy making it.
I do think because I don't like Christmas cake, but I do think that if it was moist, it does look quite interesting. I'd like to try it with all the fruit in it, because there is loads of fruit in it. I don't normally like fruit cake, but that being a bit paler, probably I imagine is not so, sort of heavy and rich as Christmas cake can be. It looks like it would be nice if it wasn't like the Gobi Desert.
And even more, I hope you enjoy eating it. Bye.
The mask slips at the end. Watch it. She does a big smile,
Rope, isn't it?
and then she
I do hope you enjoy making it.
Scowls.
And even more, I hope you enjoy eating it. Bye.
Oh, how can I think I can only go frame by frame forwards in VLC. Hang on, I will catch the last frame.
I do hope you enjoy making it, and even more, I hope you enjoy eating it. Bye.
Smiling. It's dropping off now. There she goes. She's not smiling anymore. She's so cross with Sarah having ruined episode 3. 50p. Look at that. My purse won't run to 50p Fanny Cradock's Christmas cookery, unfortunately. Aren't you supposed to pour brandy over it in a few months? Yeah, true. Yeah. Right. Now it's time for a very important part of Christmas food. I know we're 5 to 7, so technically we've only got 5 minutes left of the stream, but we will watch the remainder. Certainly, so there's 5 episodes in total. We're going into episode 4 now, and they're 15 minutes long. So by, well, depending on how much I pause, by about 10 past, quarter past, we'll have finished this one. I was always in two minds about whether to do episode 5 anyway, because it is not remotely Christmas related. All she does is finish the Christmas tree at the beginning, and then she goes off and makes loads of petty fours. So maybe when we get to the end of episode 4, or towards the end of it, we can do a little poll as to see whether people want to see the rest. But this is a good one. This is another integral part of the Christmas meal. Was that the real end music? Yeah, it is. This is the real. I mean, I've swapped out for a cover, but it's a very, very like-for-like cover. I just didn't want to use the exact music. But yeah, that's the music.
Bye.
It's going for over £100 in various old book retailers. There's a copy on Amazon for £264. I know. I would love a copy. I don't care whether it's an original or a scan. I just want a PDF of it. I want to read every detail. Yeah, Mike Oldfield, that's right. Royal mincemeat.
Hello. With you in a minute.
Wrong camera.
The tree's nearly finished now. Well, I always think, and I think you'll probably agree with me, that somehow or other mincemeat is the Cinderella of Christmas cooking. It's not properly treated. Those dreadful little mince pies, you know, first bite up to the mincemeat, second bite over, and all those dull things. And there's such divine things you can do. Now, look here. Take, for example, crepe stuffed with mincemeat.
She loves her French food.
You know, you make those in advance, slosh them onto pieces of wax paper or greaseproof paper, and then store them either in the refrigeration or in your freezer, whichever you want, and draw on them as you want them. And then all you have to do
She's looking
is cook your
fabulous
mincemeat
today.
first, because you only need to warm these through. Look at me being clumsy. And then put lashings of mincemeat in a pancake and roll them up.
Oh, she tore that one.
And then line them down
She
a
hides
dish which
it.
you've buttered. I've done some of them already, do you see? And there goes another one. And I'm using a finger, because you can't cook without using them. Now roll that one up, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then you put those into a buttered dish, like that. You sift icing sugar over them, thickly. Then you put a piece of foil on top.
Ooh,
And like that,
not gonna lie.
when you're ready for them, you warm them in the oven, gas mark 5 for 15 minutes. As Sarah, my dear Sarah, will do for me.
My dear Sarah, who's come in her nightdress, apparently. Not gonna lie, I mean, at the moment, because they're not cooked, they look a bit anemic, but the idea of maybe cooking a little crepe with icing sugar on it and a bit of mince pie filling sounds all right. As it turns out, when they come out the oven, they don't look any darker than they are now. They don't have any sort of melted... Because I think if you do heat up icing sugar like that, I think it can go a little bit like melty, caramelly, but it doesn't look any different. It comes out looking pale yellow. But hey, this whole episode is basically just... She's already made the mincemeat. She's not going to tell you how to do that. Mincemeat, for those who perhaps don't have it in your nation, it's not meat. Originally, it was made with meat. It's nothing to do with mince or meat now. It is just a series of fruits and fruit juice and spices that you have at Christmas. It's the contents of a mince pie, if you're familiar with that. But this whole episode is basically just her putting mincemeat in things that aren't mince pie casings, because she says they're rubbish and men hate them anyway, is the phrase that she keeps throwing out. I think it's named meat. I think it's named that because meat used to just mean any kind of food. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I think I did hear that on QI or something. But I think also it did originally, it was actually meat as well. But yeah, I think meat also did used to just kind of mean food, didn't it? I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but that rings a bell as a fact. But yeah, mince pies did used to contain meat once upon a time, I think. Anyway, let's continue. Sarah's looking fabulous. She's really scared about today's episode. Hopes it goes well.
Thank you, my love. Now that's the start. That's mincemeat pancakes instead of the inevitable mince pies.
The inevitable mince pies.
Now then, my favourite. It's a thing called a mincemeat galette, and I think it's much better than mince pie. Easier, too. You see, you'll have 2 circles of paste. And, of course, the paste, like everything else, is in the booklet.
Now here, paste definitely means pastry. It's not almond paste. This is pastry, which I guess is etymologically the same word. That's why we call it pastry, maybe. I don't really know exactly why she's calling it paste. I guess people used to call it that back then. This thing, when it's finished, does actually look really nice. I'm not going to lie. I could absolutely destroy a slice of it.
This one's rolled out very thinly and put onto a lightly floured baking sheet, and Sarah will bake that for me at gas mark 6, one shelf above centre. But this has a wetted baking sheet. Some of the moisture has dried off here. And you take a thicker circle of puff paste and you slap it.
Oh, slap it on.
And then like that you put it in the oven, but first you do something else to it. Now, let me show you. You make your crisscross lines really rather deeply over the surface, you see, like this. And then you make lines rather deeply in the reverse. So.
Bear with her here, she's going somewhere with this.
Those, you can do them as closely or as widely apart. They're best if they're a little bit wide apart, rather like these. And then you take raw, unbeaten egg white, and you pour that over the top and run it right over.
Yeah, don't use a brush. Just use your hand.
It comes to the very, very edge, and then sifted icing sugar, or caster sugar, all over it, and that'll all sink in when it melts into the oven.
Look at this. Maybe it's just me, but...
And when it comes out, this is what you can make it look like. Now, let me talk about that for 1 second.
Oh.
I've split the centre lid and pushed it up with mince.
Look at that lid.
And that's all I've done.
So puff pastry, sorry, linear pastry,
make it look like.
with the melted sugar on top. I mean, I could take or leave mince pie filling, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of mince pies, but... The cake looked better, says Sprout Stuff. Raw egg still on her hands. Yeah, that's so true. She's going to do the rest of this episode with raw egg. Mince pie filling is rank, says Adam Jonesio. I mean, I don't think it's rank. I agree that I'm not a big fan, so I could quite happily fill this with something else. But it's that lid that I'm interested in. The puff pastry lid with egg white and sugar melted on the top. I'll just have a slice of the lid, please. Maybe a bit of that, some fondant offcuts.
That for 1 second. I've split the centre.
Yeah, where's the bucket?
Pushed it up.
You won't mind if I use the bucket, will you?
And that's all I've done. It looks really rather delicious, don't you think?
Kind of.
And it is so jolly easy. There's a couple of my almond paste leaves on there because, you know, I'm always one for tiddling things up. Now what have you got for us?
Almond paste. Marzipan.
Oh, yes. Well, now for the ones, especially the younger ones, who are newcomers to my cooking, we must make a proper mince pie.
Look at it. It looks like a flipping. It's like a trussing napkin that she unfolds here. Well, this is pastry.
For the ones, especially the younger ones.
Look at this.
Who are newcomers to
like a serviette.
my cooking, we must make a proper mince pie. So I've rolled the paste out because most of you older ones know it so well you don't want to see it over and over again in depth. But I'll make it clear to you young ones that you roll out paste fairly thinly, all in the booklet, of course, and the instructions. And you put it into a flan ring on a floured baking sheet. It's much easiest this way.
Okay.
Then when you've got it in, you take a rolling pin. And you run the rolling pin right over it. And gather up the trimmings, and that's all there is to lining it out. See? Gather them all up.
All right.
Like that. Now then, you take the mincemeat, and you dump it inside.
Dump.
Lovely, rich mincemeat. And
Good
of course,
grief.
when you make your mincemeat, do remember that last year's is always better than this year's, and all you have to do...
That is such a previous generation attitude, and I think it's I like it. I really like that. You know, you can keep Christmas cake, you can keep your wedding. People don't even necessarily have fruitcake for their wedding cake anymore, but traditionally wedding cakes, certainly in the UK anyway, would be done with fruitcake, much like a Christmas cake would be, and you can then keep it and have it later. And some people would take maybe a tier off their wedding cake, and I think you just freeze it or something. I'm not sure what you do. And then use that at the christening of their first child, because it just keeps forever. And she's talking about, this is the mincemeat that, she probably has made this batch this year, but she says the best mincemeat is last year's that you've kept going. She's going to tell you how to keep it going now.
To keep it going is just to open it up every 6 months and give it a little flick of rum, a little flick of brandy, and sometimes a little flick of extra orange juice. Keep it moist and shining and lovely. You see? Fill that up like
Just
that.
drop some
Now, when it's filled,
orange
you get
juice
an
and rum
ordinary
in it,
table.
and it'll just live
And
forever,
right
apparently.
round like this, pushing the paste over the mincemeat all the way. As I said, this is very familiar to some of you, but if it isn't familiar to the ones who spend those dreary Christmas Eves facing the prospect of making those nasty little things which men hate, it will be, I hope, a saving. I have found it so throughout my adult life. Now then, you have the second piece of paste, which in this case, of course, because of saving time, is rolled out.
Is
Slap that
starched.
over the top.
It's just come from the
And once
laundrette.
again, you go in for your rolling pin routine. You see?
I think that's
And of course, a
clever. I
proper
think
rolling
rolling it
pin
over a
without
ring
handles
is,
on. Because that's the easiest kind, and it's the professional kind as well.
Kind of
So
smart.
perhaps
I like
somebody will be
that.
kind enough to slip one in your stocking for Christmas.
I beg your pardon.
And
Excuse me?
There is a proper rolling pin without any handles on, because that's the easiest kind, and it's the professional kind as well. So perhaps somebody will be kind enough to slip one in your stocking for Christmas.
If anyone wants to slip a professional rolling pin in my stocking this Christmas, I've scrubbed and scrubbed downstairs.
There is your mince pie for Sarah to put blind into the oven and to bake for.
Sarah, do it with your eyes open, please, for the God's sake. She's trying to kill Sarah now. There's a roast goose in there that's brimming with hot oil that she's not told her about.
Kind enough to slip one in your stocking for Christmas. And there is your mince pie for Sarah to put blind into the oven and to bake for me.
Sarah,
And she's bringing over for me at the same time one that
she
and I
she
baked
looks
here
so
today.
beaten down.
There is
I know
your
we keep
mince
going
pie
back,
for Sarah
sorry.
to put blind
Look at her
into the
face.
oven and to bake for me. And she's bringing over for me at the same time one that she and I baked
Oh,
here
poor
today.
Sarah.
And we've tiddled it up. It's ready for service at one point. Like all these things, there's an easy way and a difficult way of handling it. The tiddling up is simply sifted icing sugar and little almond paste leaves, like holly leaves. But 2 slices, money for old rope. And never any fear of breaking. And that's the way to pick it up. And that's the easy way of using it. We put that over there and meet it again presently. and
It's
probably
kind of
have the
cute,
time
I
of-
think. It's like aesthetically, it's quite nice. You've got the icing sugar, it's kind of snowy. You've got the quite 70s looking marzipan leaves. If my mum served that up at the Christmas dinner table, everyone would go, "Oh, that's lovely. Oh, did you make that yourself? Oh, that's great." So not everything she makes looks like a dog's dinner.
And see what it's like inside. And here comes Sarah with yet another way of using mincemeat. I think it's fun to see how many different ways you can do it.
Oh, Sarah.
throughout the year. Now this is my ordinary Swiss roll panel.
Left a little
the
corner
one
on
that never
there.
cracks. And I'm going to tell you that this one's a fortnight old, so if it doesn't crack, I shall be the one to be surprised.
Fortnight old.
Now you put your mincemeat on. Baked, of course, not raw mincemeat. And then spread it out.
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't know. This is what I need the
Pan,
booklet for.
right
Baked,
over the
of
surface
course.
the sponge. I have already cut the lengthwise edges of the sponge because those would crack in any event. And I think they've been eaten by various people on the set while I've been preparing. Now, let me take a little time over this. That's right. Bring that into there. Because there's nothing more disappointing than coming to the edge and finding there's nothing there. Is there now?
Now, she does... I mean, she's got some skills. Credit where it's due. Watch her roll this Swiss roll in 0.5 seconds. It's mad.
Now the part that the housewife is so scared of because of the rubbish that's been written in some of these women's magazines about rolling it up and letting it get cold rolled up and then unrolling it and standing inside the roof of your mouth when all you really do is just to make a crease in the greaseproof that it's lying on like that and then just tow it away from you. And there is your Swiss roll.
I'm not sure that it's as easy as she says it is. She turns it over at the edge. Joe T, thank you, 1118, for subscribing for 63 months. She turns the edge and then she says, and then you just tow it away from you. No, Fanny.
And all you really do is just to make a crease.
I can make a crease, and I can do that. I guarantee you it would come out upside down and absolutely a trussing mess.
In the greaseproof that it's lying on like that, and then just tow it away from you.
How does she do that?
And there is your Swiss roll.
It looks pretty anemic, Fanny. I'm not being funny. I'm not being Fanny.
Everything in life is so easy when you know the way. It's just a question of the pleasure that I get, selfishly, out of sharing the ways of the things I've happened to discover with you.
Oh.
Okay, now I want you to come over to the cooker with me.
Oh, Christ. This is a real low point. This is the worst thing she makes in the whole time.
I haven't finished my mincemeat story. Butter and a proper omelette pan I've got there. That is to say...
Stop.
Iron.
My purse string won't stretch to butter.
And unlike cook, never washed. And a proper
She does a joke there. Let's not ruin the joke.
That is to say, iron, steep-sided, and unlike cook, never washed.
Hey.
Turn the gas up.
Don't wash your omelette pan.
Turn it over there and wait until the butter not only dissolves and makes a rude swearing noise on the pan, but also turns slightly brown at the edges.
A rude
now,
swearing
I'll never know
noise.
why. I never have known why. The butter turns brown, and that's the right moment to dip your egg mixture in, and yet the omelette isn't brown. Now, the egg mixture is, in fact, just eggs, beaten up lightly, but not bashed about to the bandy, and with little flakes of butter. Some of you may be able to see those, beaten in with it. Little flakes of butter beaten in with it.
Little flakes of
Now,
butter.
The omelette pan is brown, butter is brown, so I can tip it in. Now, don't get yourself worked up about making omelettes. Let's get rid of that. Hold the pan in one hand and work with the flat of the fork. Pick up the frills as they form round the outer edge with the flat of the fork. I'm going to be noisy now, so I'm going to stop talking.
Oh, you've been shouting at me all evening, Fanny. I'm not... It's not going to make a difference.
Pick up the frills as they form round the outer edge with the flat of the fork. I'm going to be noisy now, so I'm going to stop talking. Shake, scoop, scoop, shake, drawing in the frills.
Right, she's drawing in the frills, which is not... It's not the nicest word. Not an egg fan. This is kind of gross. It gets worse, right? This is at the moment she's just making an omelette. I mean, it doesn't look great, but she's making an omelette, and at this stage, it could go well enough. I'm scared about where the mincemeat comes into this. Indeed, that's not even the worst thing, though. The fact that she is making a mincemeat omelette. I will let her speak for herself, and the image of the omelette that she presents speak for itself.
Until
God.
Until you've got a firm set on the base, but the top is still wet.
Wet.
Then get rid of the fork.
Now she's going to turn it over.
Work with a spatula, run it round. So.
Oh, God.
Now you will want to turn down your heat. Which sounds odd. Because you don't want it to get like leather.
She's from the gas
while
council.
You're putting in the mincemeat. So you put the mincemeat over the surface.
Into the wet center.
Nice and richly filled. So. There's a school of thought in France which says that if an omelette looks perfect, it doesn't taste perfect. So I'm never quite sure whether I agree with it or not.
Well, you agree with everything French, Fanny, so...
Over with that, chap. Up with the flame again. Seal those two edges together partially.
Kablook, you are correct. It's going to be proper. I've never said that word out loud, so I may mispronounce it, but I've seen it written down before. It's going to be properly bavurse, isn't it? Which means, yes, it's going to be a French omelette.
At that flame. Thank you, my
She
darling.
snaps Sarah. How dare she?
Thank you, my darling.
Thank you, my darling.
Turn it all off. Take the pan like this, and tip pan and omelette at sharp angles to...
Look at the state of that. Look at it arrive out of the pan.
Take the pan like this, and tip pan and omelette at sharp angles
Flop.
to each other. And so, turn it out onto the...
Right, and now listen to how she tries to justify what she's done here, apart from the fact that it's French, and apparently French word for drool, which is very, very nice.
But I always feel it looks a bit naked like
It looks a bit trussing raw, Fanny.
So I like to dust it with sifted ice.
You like Sarah to dust it for you.
And there it is. Now, on my way to this table where I've got a lot of talking to do with you, I want first to get a damp cloth, because one of the disfigurements...
Because Sarah's
I think,
messed
is
it
when you
up.
sift the icing sugar on, and then you've got an unsightly rim round the edge. Now I've got an unsightly rim round me, so I'll have to dust my hands as well. And then we'll talk about all this. Remember something about omelette.
Right, here she... This is her... This is why she's done what she's just done. And she's wrong. Well, she's not... She is wrong and she's not.
Something utterly and totally vital, which I want you to bear in mind at all times. An omelette, when it is turned out, should be wet in the middle.
Incorrect. Incorrect. Why, though? Why does she think it should be wet in the middle?
Or, as the French call it, baveuse.
Oh, there you go. Baveuse.
Because omelettes go on cooking, even on a warm plate.
Omelettes do go on cooking on a warm plate. It's correct. As Facon Eglia says in the chat, that is correct. However, I hope she's going to let it go on cooking on the plate for about 10 minutes, because Christ alive, you need a spoon to eat that. You could not fork that into your mouth.
And therefore, by the time it's served, or for instance...
This table looks not great. Same with scrambled eggs. I mean, yeah.
Unless you've got it.
I bet you've got an unsightly rim. Yeah.
You see?
Look at it. Look at that. Gordon Ramsay would lose his mind. Where is the lamb sauce?
Now, let's go round and see what we've got. First of all, let's cut a slice of this. Put it here for you to have a look at. And then...
I mean, the mincemeat makes it look horrible. It probably, if you like mincemeat, it's probably fine. But because you're expecting a nice Swiss roll filling, and then you look in it and it's a bit sort of black, it's like, okay. So that's not an exact hit aesthetically to begin with. Look at by the way though, look at the flare coming from that tinsel. That's very 70s TV, Christmas, sparkly, top of the pops, you know, that sundog coming off the table.
That's what your mincemeat Swiss roll looks like. Now then, the classic, well, almost classic now, I've been doing it for so long, but I was the first to start this.
Oh.
Light years ago.
Light years ago. It is a unit of time, as we all know, because it's got the word year in it.
The mince pie, which Pa likes. Lots of mincemeat. No dirty great doorstep of pastry to work through before you get to the filling.
It is true that, particularly nowadays, when you buy like a supermarket pack of mince pies, it is mostly pastry. And I like pastry, you know, but if I'm eating a mince pie for the sake of eating a mince pie, I do actually want it to have some mince in it, you know. If I wanted to just have some sugared pastry, I'd go and buy a pastry. So I think, as mince pies go, this looks cute already as she's slicing it. And as you'll see in the middle, it's basically just a great big mince tart. Nobody know.
In every way, French and classic.
In every way, French and classic, she says, with the most complimentary tone.
Argue, would you? Come out.
I'm not dissing French cuisine, by the way, but she just thinks does nothing else. There you
Now
go.
you get enough mincemeat.
If you like mince pie, it's just pastry and mincemeat, but it's not. You don't have as she says, a great doorstep of pastry to get through. So yeah, fair enough. That's all right.
Really enough mincemeat.
If you like mince pies.
Now, I want
Jesus,
to talk
careful with
about
that bloody knife.
this. Now you get enough mincemeat, don't you? Really.
It's probably
enough
dulled now
mincemeat.
that she's used it on the cake. Look at this.
I want to talk for a moment about this. I'm going to reach for a spoon here.
Yeah, you need a spoon for this omelette. She knows it. She knows you need a spoon.
Because I want you to see when you serve it that still is wet in the middle.
It's not a good thing, Fanny.
Then it's really delicious.
Look at the glisten. Look, the absolute. I'm trying so hard not to swear.
That still is wet in the middle.
The flipping state of that. That is horrible. Look in the foreground, not the bit in front of the icing sugar, as the camera zooms in and the light glistens off the liquid. Ready?
Then it's really delicious.
Oh.
Now, have you got those little pancakes for me, my darling?
And too much icing
That's the
sugar
last thing
as
to
well.
Talk about. That's right. Thank you very much. And then beside me here, the pancakes filled with the mincemeat, and of course, if you
Again, look, they've not been cooked, have they? They don't look any different to how they went in. Oh no. She should have fried the crepes longer before she even made them in the first place, I think. Need a bit more colour in them. Again, if you like mincemeat, I think it's probably quite nice in a crepe with a bit of icing sugar on it. Just, cook it a bit longer, that's all.
want to, you can put a lovely last touch in.
Yeah, that's why she went through all those husbands,
Warm
Chip
a few
Thompson,
drops of
you're
warm
right.
brandy, just to the nip of your finger. Put them over as you're carrying it to table, but remember to do this while you carry it, and that makes the flames burn and keep burning all the time. Do you see?
She's talking
Keep
about
it
when you
moving
light
with the blanket,
Christmas
and
food
then
on
the
fire.
flames will go on burning, and the same with the Christmas pudding.
Christmas pudding.
Which I hope will be a help to you in what you do. Now, can we go back over this? There is nothing that I've shown you about which the details are not in the booklet, so that we can go hand in hand together over Christmas. And may I say, how much I admire the housewives of Britain in these appalling present conditions for their courage in trying to give their families another super Christmas. So, like Tiny Tim, God bless you all, I say. Good night.
The housewives of Britain, trying to give their family a good Christmas. So that really is where Christmas ends with Fanny Cradock. It is 22 minutes past the hour. I think what we will do is, we don't need to see all of this. I will watch it with you, but we will maybe just skim through some highlights, because this is not Christmassy at all. Not really sure why she's tacked this onto Fanny Cradock's Christmas cooking, especially given that she didn't seem to have time to cook a whole omelette in the previous episode. She could have shared this next 15 minutes across the previous 4 episodes and had a bit more time to finish the goddamn turkey before it came out pink. But that's not what Tiny Tim said, but okay. He said God bless us, but not God bless you all. Yeah. Right. So in this special episode of traditional British Christmas food, Fanny Cradock is doing a whole 15-minute episode on petit fours. French. Can you tell she likes the French food? And here she goes, finishing her Christmas tree. That's a different tree from the beginning.
And that's that.
There we go. Sarah's definitely done most of that.
Now, we're taking time off from the absolute basic things that we do for Christmas for me to share
Sarah's
something
cooking in
with
the
you
background.
that I very much want you to know about, which takes a little time, but is, I think, infinitely rewarding for special occasions. It's based on shoe paste. And the first
Shoe
thing I want to do-
paste, not shoe pastry, shoe paste. You get that from the cobblers, don't you? It keeps the waterproof. It keeps your Converse waterproof. Stick a bit of shoe paste on there.
is to make shoe paste with you to show you how incredibly
How tall
easy
is
it
Sarah?
And also to stress
Towering over it. It's just a
Why,
small
shall
gas
we
cooker,
know
I think.
how incredibly inexpensive it is. I've got here in this saucepan
Anyone for a vol au vent?
2 ounces of butter, 4.5 fluid ounces of water.
Fluid
Two
ounces.
dissolve together, and as they come to the boil, which is now, turn the heat down a little and shoot 2.5 ounces of sifted self-raising flour.
Shoot up with 2.5 ounces of premium cocaine.
Then I turn the heat up again for a second until the mixture seethes over the top. Can you see the seethe?
No, not
And
really.
then out goes the light.
Show me the
And then
sieve.
all that happens is they just
Look at the
get
state of that pan.
stirred.
I mean, I
First
say the
it's quite
state.
slow.
I'm getting a bit. I don't know what the word is now. A bit facetious, I suppose. Now, complaining that the pan. I'm comparing it to modern day cookery programs. You wouldn't see Nigella or whoever else cooking, seething anything in a pan like that. However, as much as I instinctively said, look at the state of that in my I'm presenting a live stream voice and trying to be entertaining, I actually find that quite charming and endearing because, again, it reminds me of my grandparents and my just a simpler time, I think, where why not use that? It's seen some love, that pan, but it works perfectly well. Just use the pan that's a bit battered and bruised and has had many a seethe in it. You don't need to get a fresh, brand spanking new one just because you're on telly, you know? I like that. Indeed, Adam, it's a real pan. That pan needs wiping with lemon juice. You need to look after your copper. Indeed, where else are you going to wash your pants through the week? And do your round Christmas pudding from episode 2. No, I actually like that pan. I like it a lot. I just instinctively said, look at the state of that pan, because it's kind of my job to do that, isn't it, in these watch-alongs? But I like it. That's my grandma's pan. That pan's seen her through 4 marriages.
Until you get an absolutely smooth paste. That is stage 1. But when you realise that a single batch of
She always looks very glamorous, doesn't
will
she?
make you a dish of any one of the 3 dishes that I'm going to show you at the end of the programme, and it uses 2 standard eggs, 2.5 ounces of flour, 2 ounces of butter, and a little tap water, cannot, by any reasonable person, be called wildly extravagant. Now,
I know,
as soon as
tap
you've got
water.
that to a smooth paste, like a roux, you know that one of old, the flour and water paste, which leaves the bottom and sides of the pan clear.
I know a
You
roux.
discard the spoon if you're clever,
Give it to Sarah.
breaking one of your 2 eggs.
One-handed skills.
And while this is going fast, I won't talk.
Hey,
You'll see
we're
what
high-tech.
happens.
It's only 1975. I'm surprised she's got one of these. I'm joking, of course. I know these existed in the 70s. Maybe we're just going to watch this whole thing without skipping. I don't think there's just too much going on.
Now, you have to go on beating past the globule stage.
Oh, lovely.
Until the mixture's smooth.
Get it past the globule stage.
Now, there's the globule stage, which you can see for yourself,
Yeah.
I think. Nasty little lumps. And I go on
It's a bit
working
rude.
at full speed, because it's so nice and quick, until I get this really smooth paste.
Not mixing by hand, just let a robot cook your meal. I know, I'm surprised she's gone in for this newfangled... It's stuck to...
I'm leaving it all on the beaters, so I've had to switch them on again. That's better. Now, the mixture is made, except for that being scraped off.
Scraped
But in
off.
point of fact, it's by no means ready for cooking.
Oh.
Because the most important point comes last. The really vital point. See, many years ago, I got myself into a most terrible
The
state
mixer
of
is
health,
gas-powered too.
because I read in a woman's magazine a perfectly correct recipe for making shoe paste. And a perfectly correct description of how you piped the various items out. And then when it was baked correctly and taken out of the oven, I nearly had kittens, because the instructions said, and then split the buns open, whatever shape they are, and with the handle of a teaspoon, scoop all the surplus goo from the middle. Well, of course, as you and I know, there shouldn't be any goo.
No
There's
goo, no globules, and no surplus goo.
One trick that ensures you will never have any goo in the mud, and my face is going to be very red in a minute, because in here are buns.
Oh.
I'm going to take them out and show them to you.
She's got a bun in the oven.
And there won't be if you leave the shoe paste to get absolutely cold.
Yeah,
Before you pipe it
her
out.
omelette
That's
had a
what
fair
you're going
bit
to
of surplus goo in it, didn't it?
do. Now, in piping it out, you have an oiled baking sheet. Very little oil.
Looks like
Just
varnish.
work over the surface with the brush. I use a a makeup brush. I buy a new one now for this sort of thing, and I sterilise it.
She sterilises it, of course.
And it works perfectly.
In the same tub where she sterilises her secateurs.
In here, I've got some of my cold shoe paste mixture in this icing bag with a half-inch writing pipe. That is for the most luxurious kind of petit four that can exist. They cost a bomb. In the only place I know.
Now, this really is a relic of the 1970s. Listen to this. This doesn't seem real or believable, but it must be, because she wouldn't just say it. I think this is true.
Writing pipe.
Right, listen.
That is for the most luxurious kind of petit four that can exist. They cost a bomb. In the only place I know where you can get them, which is in Paris. And there's nowhere in England you can buy them, so you can feel gloriously complacent when you make them for yourselves. This is for eclairs, big fat ones and cream buns.
She says there's nowhere in England you can buy... I don't know if she's talking specifically about Petit Four full stop. She may be. But if not, she's about to make some quite small ones, little sort of delicate, maybe that big. And she's saying there is nowhere in England, and the only place she knows is in Paris, where you can buy small Petit Four. Proper ones.
And is a 1-inch pipe.
And now we live in a world where you can get anything from any kind of cuisine, anywhere you like, as long as you live near a reasonably sized city or even town.
And then you put the pipe just onto the tray.
Don't forget, we only just joined the European Commission a couple of years before. Well, exactly. I mean,
drop it off with the knife. If there's any little peak showing,
I do believe it, but it's just
a little air bubble. Smooth it off with a knife dipped.
It's just
and get a perfect
an amazing look back, isn't it, to how different things were 50 years ago. You couldn't just get what you wanted easily like that. Corner shops back then, you watch something like Open All Hours or an old episode of Coronation Street or something. You would head to your local shop because there weren't really supermarkets, or certainly not of the size and frequency and stock as we're familiar with today. The number of them from one town to the next. There were, the odd supermarket here and there, but Sainsbury's goes back to the Industrial Revolution, and it wasn't a supermarket when it began, of course, but eventually it became sort of what we would call a supermarket. But a lot of people would shop locally, and you would go in, and if you wanted a tin of peas, there is one choice for what brand of peas you get. If you wanted some, whatever it is, you want some bacon, they're probably going to slice it for you there and then with the bacon slice. You want a loaf of bread, there is a specific kind of bread loaf. You do not have a choice of 4 brands, 50-50 or gluten-free, or you might even struggle to get white versus brown. You can only buy olive oil in the chemists in tiny bottles. Indeed. So, it is an amazing look back at I think that's one of the many reasons why I really like watching all this old telly. And granted, most of the stuff I watch is fictional stuff. I watch children's fantasy or whatever, but not always. I'm a big fan of sitcoms from this era as well, and partly just because it is a fascinating window into a time that, I never saw, but its effects are still, it had effect on today's society, and you can still relate to certain aspects of it. And I know that my parents lived like this, and my grandparents, which is fascinating. And I remember, in the early 90s, mid 90s, I remember the tail end of some of these things that were, still around back then in certain parts of the country, and no longer really.
Dip it in cold water and push. First pull it up, then push it down, then pull again a little, and then push down again until you get a good bun shape, and then cut it off. And then pat it into shape with that wet knife.
A delicious petit turd.
And then you get a perfect bun when it comes out of the oven.
This makes me want a salmon paste sandwich.
When you know. Now,
these are lovely time capsules. Having lived through the late 70s, early 80s, I have fond memories of the pre-supermarket era. The big Tesco in Portsdale, which is now classed as a Tesco Express, was something out of this world for my gran and her friends. That's interesting, Tetsuya. It's nice to have your perspective from someone who was alive at the time.
And they're so easy. You pipe little eclairs, like this. Steady it with a knife. That's the half-inch writing pipe. Lop it off.
I know these look tiny at the moment, but they are quite sweet when they come out. However, Fanny goes completely against her usual form.
And every time again.
And
should you forget, as one tends to do when you're not used to
Jesus.
something,
And does something really bad
and
and
start pulling the end off,
out of character.
getting a bit of a mess, and do that, and you've got that dreadful streak there. I'll show you how to deal with it. First, you lop it off to the length you want. Pick that up, put it back in the bag when you're at home. There isn't time to do that now.
Yeah, waste
Then
not, want
take your
not.
knife again, and shape it off. So you can always replace turf or tidy up. There's a little tiny peak there. Always be tidied up with that wet knife. Now then, for the little buns, which look adorable when they're done. I've demonstrated a peak. You see, if you do one thing wrongly, you make the next one wrong for yourself. Then for the little buns, vertical, press down ever so gently, pull up, press down, and lop off. Push down.
It looks tiny,
ever
but
so
she does
gently.
make some nice
That's
little
it.
mouthfuls.
Lop off. And then that little peak goes immediately with the wetted knife. And if you think it looks
All right,
a bit
Fanny, let's
too
crack
darling, you can do them this
Gone
way if you
half
want,
seven.
doesn't
There's
matter.
Sarah.
But I want you to see where they go.
You can do this, Sarah.
You're going to be
She gives
surprised
she
at the
throws her a
outcome.
bone.
I want you to put those in, Sarah. Where are you, my darling? You can do them in this oven if you want. Doesn't matter.
Oh, you can do
But
them
I
in
want
this
you to
oven.
see where they go. Right up high on the top shelf. Can you see that?
Oh, she's married.
And do them in this oven if you want. Doesn't matter. But I want you to see where they go.
Sarah's married.
Right up high.
She's one of the
on top
housewives
shelf.
up and down the country who are learning right now how to make petit four from Fanny.
Can you see that?
Hope
And
she's
the
married.
gas mark 8.
Peter, have you watched
Now,
Abigail's
somewhere around 12
Party?
minutes for the little ones.
I haven't. Let me Google
And
that.
it's somewhere around up to 30 for the very big ones, because it's no use you taking them out when they're
Play for stage and
This is
television.
the mistake that so many housewives make, because they're
Suburban
more
situation
vulnerable.
comedy of
They're more
manners
vulnerable
and
to
a
humidity
satire on the
in our
aspirations
net,
and
that's
tastes
the
of the new
humidity
middle
in our
class.
atmosphere.
Oh,
And
that
even
sounds
the
good.
rats,
I've not
you know
seen
what they
that.
can go like on a rainy day.
But I have wanted to
Muskies.
watch some not Play for Today, although I would watch Play for Today as well. What was that TV play called Village Hall? It was part of a series. Oh, that's what the series was called. There's a series called Village Hall made by Granada TV between 74 and 75, and it's about a village hall. Each episode has a different use to which the space was put to by local people, and it was written by all sorts of different people, starred various famous names. I think Patrick Troughton was in one episode. So it's apparently that's quite a fun little time capsule as well.
Do you see? You bake them really dark.
Right,
Then-
this is it. This is what I wanted to
That's
point
what
out.
because
Right,
it's
Fanny,
no use-
Fanny, as we know, it just leaves everything absolutely raw. It's sometimes a good vet could bring it back to life.
You taking them out when they're paying. This is the mistake that so many housewives make, because they're more. Thank you, my darling.
It's
they're more
trussing
vulnerable to
burnt.
humidity in our natural humidity in our atmosphere than even meringues, and you know what they can go like on a rainy day. Biscuits.
Biscuit. Did she say biscuits?
Do you see? You bake them really dark.
You burn them.
Then they'll keep their
Look at
shape
this next one.
and be perfect.
Look at that. Looks like a toad in the hole. Fanny.
And there are the little miniatures. And there are the little miniature buns.
You bake them really
Now we
dark.
shall fill
Yeah, when you can see the smoke coming out of the oven, they're nearly done.
them together, ice them together, and do the whole thing right through.
Listen to when she cuts them open. They sound like they squeak against her knife like they're made of, well, plastic, really.
And then I'll show you how to keep them if you make them 6 months before you want them. Take a baby one,
Listen to the squeak.
split it.
It's like
Where's the
polystyrene.
goo? It's hollow, isn't it?
No goo.
Completely hollow. Look, in goes my finger. That's because, let's try a big one.
Listen. I mean, I guess that's what they're supposed to sound like because it's shoe pastry, but
No goo.
No goo.
And look at the waste of goo. Even at a farthing a bun, this is what the little ones work out at. Well, there isn't a farthing now, but the equivalent to a farthing.
Yeah, this this was recorded, what, 71 was it? Decimalization? So 4 years on, she's still set in her ways. She's born in 1909. Farthing doesn't exist anymore.
You do them all, of course. Everyone the same.
It's like a Yorkshire pudding, isn't it? Yeah.
There we are.
I'd still smash them if
If
they
you
were filled
prefer,
with
you
cream.
can
Well,
use
she's about to fill them with cream. Here we go.
And of course, it's in the booklet, like every single thing I'm saying again in this last program today. And the texture of it is that.
The texture of it is that. Anyway, let's carry on.
It's in the booklet, like every single thing I'm saying again in this last program today. And the texture of it is that.
Good.
But when you make it
Not
up,
filled with mincemeat. Oh, well, that's an idea.
put it in a jar, and you can keep it in ordinary domestic refrigeration for a month in cold weather, and for about 3 weeks in the heat, of like last summer. That's double cream. That's all
It's
I
not
shall
often you
use.
see that in the storage instructions on your supermarket items, is it? Can be kept in the fridge for 3 weeks in cold weather.
Everything that you will see on my display table today, so you can work out the cost of that. And the confectioner's custard, see if I can remember, is 4 ounces of custards, like the ones you have in France.
Skipping through.
Now,
So now she absolutely loads these up with custard. Not very neatly.
be generous with it. 1/2 only. Dump that on the top. If you see any running about, wipe it off with clean fingers. And we'll fill one of those, we'll fill an eclair. That's it. Trying all the time to let you see what's going on right inside.
So she fills them all up.
Is he filled? No. Drop through. If you're working on a clean surface, you can scoop up and put back in the bowl afterwards. Now then, I must have one of these. These that I thought was perfectly ridiculous because they'll never be eaten. And my friends have the nerve to ask for doggy bags for the children.
Her friends have the
So I don't
nerve
put liqueurs
to
in
ask
all
for
of them.
doggy
You can
bags.
flavour this confectioner's custard, remember, with anything you like. You don't have to have the plain vanilla one. Or you can give it chocolate or coffee, liqueurs from little tiny miniature bottles. You know,
That's
the
a good
sky's
demonstration of how
Now,
rubbish
have a look at
fridges
that.
were then, that the weather
So let's
forecast
try
decided when your
nice
food went off.
And by the way,
Yeah.
just before we go, I must show you this as a matter of interest. Supposing you want to do something entirely different as a show-off. You can pipe little rings, like baby Gâteau Saint-Honoré.
Indeed, whatever you just said. And I hope
Tried
your
it off, which
donuts
I'm
look
not
just
doing
like
now because I'm just
Fanny's.
showing you this a little bit of extra and I haven't time for it. Do you see? So you can get the most dreamy things out of it and everybody wonders how you've done it.
And you don't
Take
tell
it-
that spinster
is to
next
take it
door.
on your spoon and bring your
Right, so she's
very
made
thin,
some pink stuff now.
like that. And then this is pink, doesn't matter which one. And then all you have to do when you get it on to make it look right is to take it on your spoon and bring your spoon round.
This comes out looking
so that it
very
runs
70s.
over and then runs down.
I mean, not that you don't
There we
have
are,
things
we'll
like
leave
this
that one to drip
nowadays,
down,
but
and I'll come back and tidy it
wait
off
till
so
it's
that the
done.
others come over and have a
Look
look
at these, look at these. Those on the right,
Where
those
are
pink
they?
buns, look at them.
Pink?
Look at that. And she had the nerve to say that biting through chocolate that was once melted and has now solidified, can break your teeth. I mean, they look tasty. I'm not saying they don't look good, but I mean, it's got like a ganache on it. It's a blobby bun. It is very Mr. Blobby, isn't it?
Rich lush cream buns. There are the little miniatures for very special parties.
Baby Gâteau Saint-Honoré.
Coffee eclairs, and this is what can be done with choux paste just bun.
They don't look great, do they? Why? Interesting choice of colour.
It's called a coq bouche.
It's got a coq on bouche. All right.
And this is the box I want you to use, this kind of plastic box, to pack them in their little paper cases when they're iced and everything. Pop them in your freezer or the freezing compartment of your fridge. Forget about them. Thaw them an hour before you need them and they'll be perfect. Now may I wish you not only a very happy Christmas, but some peace and security. And a little peace of mind as well. Safety in 1976.
Well, and with that, everyone, I too would like to wish you a very Merry Christmas. And not only that, but some peace and security and safety in 2025. You will see me again, though, before Christmas. I'm just saying it because Fanny said it. But that was the entirety of Fanny Cradock Cooks for Christmas. That is all available to rewatch at your leisure on BBC iPlayer, and actually quite easily accessible on non-BBC iPlayer sources. It's all on YouTube, so if you have a hankering to watch Fanny Cradock next year, next Christmas, as I do year on year, you won't struggle, I don't think, to find it. And if you are living in the UK as well, it does tend to get repeated on TV as well quite often around this time of year. So why not add that to your annual watch list of Christmassy things? Because it is part of mine now. I watch the Box of Delights year on year, but also now I can't go a Christmas without seeing Fanny. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was fascinating, wasn't it? It was an interesting look back into the 70s. It was certainly an interesting lady. She's got certain kind of controversies attached to it. Not controversies necessarily, but she apparently wasn't a particularly nice person all the time, and really her career came to quite a sudden end when she kind of berated a young cook on TV for coming up with a terrible menu, and the British public were very unimpressed with her attitude and said, "Excuse me, Fanny Cradock, who do you think you are?" And that was kind of the tail end of her regular cooking programming. She then went on to continue to appear on chat shows, and I imagine she probably carried on doing her stage shows and stuff. So I don't think she struggled, but yeah, she didn't really have the dedicated BBC cooking after that moment. But there you go. So, as Techueo says in the chat, the Spyro challenge is incoming next week. I will finish the stream with another look at that little ad that I made for it, just for those who missed it at the start of the stream. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed a bit of Fanny today, and I hope you're so far having a nice festive period. I know it's not quite begun truly, but you know, decorations are up and presents are being bought and this, that, and the other. So hope you're already starting to enjoy the festive season, if indeed you celebrate it and partake, and if not, I hope you're still having a nice time anyway. And yeah, please do join me same time next week. I know earlier, or on the podcast, or on the last stream or something, I may have said that I was going to start early in the day, but I have timed myself, much like Fanny Cradock timed herself slicing a turkey with her garden secateurs. And I can get through the whole game in about 3 hours when I'm not commentating, or 4 hours maybe if I stop and smell the roses. So, or the rose face solution. So I will start normal time, and we'll just run late into the evening like we have done today. Probably a bit later than we have done today. So a great big bumper stream next week from me, raising money for Cancer Research UK. Please do be there if you can. And we will have one more look at my little Spyro ad thing in just a second. But yes, thank you everyone for being with me, and of course this joint stream as well this week as well. So I'll see you later on this week on a live stream with Ben and Ashton. Until then, have a nice Monday, and I will hope to see you next week to raise some money for charity as I play all the way through Spyro 1 on PS1 without breathing fire, collect all the dragons, all the eggs, visit every level, glitch my way through areas where I'm not supposed to be, and show off my skills. That's the plan anyway. We'll see. Bye everyone.
Hey Spyro, all dragons know there's magic in a fairy's kiss. See what it can do to your power of flame.